staff.
Oh, God. Zoom's going to be up there?
You're welcome.
What's that?
Okay, that's fine.
Roxanne can probably make you a co-host if you want to share your screen.
I don't think I need to share my screen.
Okay.
Down.
We got the
It
mouse.
is 1 p.m.
Still got it, so that clears that.
There we go. Excellent.
You're welcome.
Okay, so it is 1 p.m. and I'm Councilor Bill Soms. I'm calling this budget workshop together. This is the Town Council Finance Committee along with other members of the Town Council. I'll read the names. The members of the committee are myself, Councilor Ryan. We're waiting for Andrea Ingles. She said she'd be 5 minutes late. We also have present in the room Chairman Kevin Dombrowski of the Town Council, Councilor Mary McGrattan, Mayor's Assistant Kristen Chapman, Assistant Finance Director Ian, what's your last name?
Stammel.
Stammel, thank you. Don, HR Administrator Don Stammel, former Finance Director in Washington.
That's Ian Steinhoff and Don Stam.
Don Steinhoff, you gotta stop saying that. Come on.
And stop having
Marcia
names.
Hancock, the mayor, and present online, we have Roxanne Marr, administrative assistant. Also Caroline Schneider, finance director Matthew Bonin, and Counselor Naomi Rodriguez. If I missed anybody, I hope not. So let's talk about the process of the meeting. We have an agenda which we will cover today, going through the mayor's budget line by line. We won't go through the whole budget, we'll only do the department heads that are on the agenda. Typically, what the finance committee does is ask questions about individual line items. We have, in addition to a spreadsheet that we use every year, this year we're using ClearGov for the first time. I don't know if we'll be sharing it, but individual participants can go to ClearGov and see the budget. Everything is online this year, more so than last year. Anyone help me here? Should I give out a link if somebody wants to log into ClearGov? Oh yeah, here, I've got it here. So it's https://cleargov.com. And then I think you have to search for the town of Ledger.
And there are 2 ledgers in there, so just make sure you get Ledger, Connecticut,
So make sure you get Ledger, Connecticut.
Oh, it's like
Thank you.
Iowa usage.
or it's Ledger, New York. One of them is using it.
Hey, Mark, could you send me the Excel spreadsheet?
Yes.
You ready?
Okay, yeah, so
Okay.
Mayor, I invite you to kick it off.
Okay, so I'll just start with by saying there's a pretty substantial increase in this budget. It is a 5.4% increase, which is $3,254,000 and change. I will point to the top items that are driving that number. Healthcare premiums, as many of you know, continue to increase year after year, particularly during a pandemic. So we are projecting at the worst case scenario of an 8% increase. That is $1,663,189. The Board of Education, as you know, has delivered their budget. That included an increase of $883,350. Public Works has an increase of $190,225. There is an increase in there, a pretty significant one for fuels, of course, as you can imagine, when you see the pumps today. Understanding that we don't pay the taxes, but the cost is still gone up dramatically. It also includes an addition of 1 new full-time maintainer with the Public Works Department. So we are currently a crew of 17. That would put us at 18. And in the mid 1980s, we were at 32 full-timers. We also have a debt service increase of $379,313. We bonded additional monies, so those costs go up with that. We also had a reduction in funding this year, our pilot funding, which increased so nicely last year when the legislature increased our funding. We actually had a $277,000 revenue loss from pilot funding from the state. Not from the state so much as the revaluation of the tribal land, essentially, and that was the difference there. So when you take into consideration those top items that I just mentioned, there's about $241,000 left in the remaining budgets that represent increases. What we did to partially offset this increase, because as you saw, it was a 0.20 mil tax increase. What we did to partially offset that, we had 1.2 million of transfers in to help mitigate that cost to our taxpayers, which comes in the form of $1 million from the mill rate stabilization fund and 200,000 from our defunct healthcare reserve when we were self-funded. We also increased the tax collection rate ever so slightly to 99.3%. When Joan Carroll was our tax collector, we were at 99.4. So we're still not back up to the level that we had when Joan was our tax collector, but we are recognizing that Kathy is a very steady hand in the tax collection department. And I think we can continue that, that course of action. I will also note that though we did borrow or appropriate $1.2 million from the mill rate stabilization fund, we are still at almost $3.3 million in that fund. I think that's too much myself. I would eventually like to see it get down to like 2.5 and not more. It's a good tool, but I don't want it to be, prior to this transfer, we were over $4 million. That's a lot of money. So we're trying to bring that down and use that here to mitigate some of those costs. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you before we get started is I looked at the last 9 years of our budgeting, and then I averaged it out by some select departments. And the general government's budget increased by an average of 1.58% per year over the last 9 years. So that's really lean. Public Works was 1.48%. Board of Education was 1.6%, again, very lean number. Benefits were 1.74% on average over 9 years. Public safety was the highest at 3.02%. And the mayor's office was 1/4%. So we've been pretty lean. I think that we are still very lean with an average of under 1.6% increase, especially in the times that we're in with the expenses that we have. On a revenue side, I would tell you that almost 67% of our revenues are tax driven. Almost 23% come from education. 5.48% come from charges and fees, which includes the co-share for healthcare and the VNA revenues. 2.26% comes from the Pequot Fund, 1.5% from pilot, and 0.5% makes up the rest. And then the last thing I will share with you is net equalized grand list. So net equalized grand list is the grand list, but as a market value instead of an assessor's value. We are at $1.7 billion rounded. Our nearest neighbor that's comparable in size is Montville at 2.1 billion, followed by East Lyme at 3.5 billion and Waterford at 4.9 billion. So we have a smaller pot of taxable property to work off of to pay the bills. So that's kind of where this budget stands. It was a bit of a challenge. Again, I commend Marcia and Matt and Ian for the work that went into this budget to getting it to, I think, a very palatable 0.2 mil increase, including the tools that we had to use to get there. I also passed out for each of you, just for your awareness, the number of people in town hall, because a certain winemaker in town one day said, take any of our departments that have 10 or more employees and cut them in half. Of course, not physically, but cut those departments in half. So when you look at that list, and Andre, you don't have one yet, but that is a list of the employees within town hall, understanding that like the library 8.2, that doesn't mean there's actually eight people there. It means that collectively they're at 8.2 FTEs. So again, a lot of what you see here is 1 and 2 and maybe 2.5 people, but very lean. So we don't have a lot of wiggle room. If somebody were out for sickness, medical procedures, even vacations, if we didn't have one other person in there, that department would be closed. And we hate to have to do that and close, say, well, we're gonna close for 2 weeks. So we operate pretty lean. Obviously, police and public works are the top tiers there, followed by nursing. But that's really it. I wanted to just kind of give that intro. Kristen's gonna go over the mayor's budget department as a whole, and then we'll go into questions.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a clarification on your comment about the mill rate stabilization fund has
Yep.
too much money. I think what you're thinking, and I know what I'm thinking is, we also have something called the undesignated fund. And we try to make that larger,
Right.
because that gives us a lower rate on bonds when we have to go out to bond. So I think you're thinking of moving some of those funds into the undesignated.
Not necessarily, because the S&P bond raters view it as the same pot of money.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So isn't that correct, Marcia?
The
The stabilization
the
fund, yeah,
one, it depends on who the reviewer
like
is,
Anthony.
but
yeah.
Anthony has
Yeah,
certainly.
Anthony did
So
in the
you
past.
Combined
consider that
them, yeah.
undesignated. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
so we had one of our raters, which we've had for a couple of years, he's on again this year, Anthony Polanco. He just looked at it and he said, well, that's essentially the same pot of gold. So
Right.
he's okay with that. It is important. Obviously, we still have bonding to do for the school projects, and we need the best rating we can get, and we've got a rating coming up.
Yeah.
So the idea was to kind of keep everything as stable as we can, get through this rating call at the beginning of April.
Mhm.
And we sell bonds at the beginning of May.
Just for your benefit, because you're new at this, the mill rate stabilization fund comes from, was that going to be your question?
No.
Oh, okay.
I had another question though.
Okay, but maybe for the, I don't know if there's anybody from the public, but just to remind everybody that that money has come from premiums on bonds that,
Yeah.
and bands that we've
Yeah,
sold. So
Issuance premiums. So we funded it with issuance premiums. We didn't have a mill rate stabilization fund until what, 3 or 4 years ago?
mhm.
And it was actually a very wise bond counselor that said, hey, there's a handful of other towns in Connecticut that do this. The idea is that it smooths out the peaks of your mill rate to make it, more attractive and palatable for your taxpayers. So we kind of thought that was a good idea. We are still only one of probably 5 or 6 towns in Connecticut that have one. And I think it's a good tool to have in the toolbox.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So between the two funds, mill rate stabilization and undesignated, what's the total balance?
The fund
If
balance,
they're viewed the same,
the undesignated fund balance is 4.5, I think, at
so
the end of
plus the
last
3
year.
point, would you
Yeah,
say?
3 point, we have 3.3 or 3.4.
When we go out to,
I'm
we're at
So we're roughly talking
3.2
about
right
$8 million
now.
that we
Yeah.
have in what the
Yeah, 3.3.
what the auditors look at in the same way.
Yeah,
So just for my benefit, because I'm not used to the municipal designations, why have 2 separate funds if they're viewed the same?
well, I would say because you don't just tap into undesignated. So undesignated is kind of a hands-off, that's truly the rainy day fund.
Okay,
That's like, okay, when Governor Malloy reduced our budget pretty substantially, I think it was what, November, December of that,
2017.
okay. We had like $1 million hit right in the middle of the fiscal year. We'd already locked everything up. So we viewed that as, hey, it's a good opportunity to help alleviate that. We did do a very unpopular tax supplemental tax. Thank you. We did a supplemental tax that year.
We did layoffs.
We did layoffs. Yep, we did layoffs. We tried to use a lot of different tools to try to smooth that out. But undesignated, I mean, this isn't a fund that you just go dip into because you want to have a pizza party. But this is a fund that you dip into when you need to have a tool, because otherwise I would tell you that there's no way that we could absorb this.
so not to belabor the point, but are there restrictions on how you can tap into those funds? Yeah, so you, kind of like an
Counselor.
IRA, right? You can put
Yeah.
money in, but you can only take it
Yeah.
out for
Not
certain
fed,
reasons.
not any kind of governmental above us
Right.
restrictions, which is another reason why we have it, because back in 2017, we took a hit in fund balance undesignated, but in other years leading up to that, we had also budgeted money coming out of undesignated to balance the budget so
Right.
that we could keep the taxes low, stable. And so now, even though the raters, not raters,
Yeah.
view the two combined funds
Yeah.
when they're determining our rating, they don't look askance at us bringing money in from mill rate stabilization to balance the budget.
I'm sorry, say it again.
They don't look negatively at our budget if we bring in money from mill rate stabilization
would if
like
we
they
were
do
doing-
with
Yeah,
fund
if we
balance.
tap
So
on
that's where I
designated.
was going, is
Yep.
what's the difference between tapping into either one of those? And so
Right.
that's the main difference in why we have that.
Yes, and
Okay.
also it's not taxpayer money
Right, it's the
in there,
premium.
Yeah.
so
Right.
Yeah. Like when
keeping
we,
it
yeah,
separate is.
So
is-
it's just good accounting,
push,
and
yes.
also it gives us a little bit of a advantage when it comes to the bond ratings.
yep,
Okay,
yep. Yeah, and
Okay.
when
Thank
we paid for the multi-use field at the high school and we took that out of undesignated, that drew additional questions from the raters because we were taking it out of undesignated. So they said, wow, why'd your percentage of your undesignated go down so much? So then you have to kind of explain it out. In this case, you don't with the raters. They just know it's there.
right.
Ready?
I've got lots of questions, but they can wait.
Accounting wise, I think it's much cleaner as well.
No, it sounds like it.
I
absolutely.
like this mill rate stabilization fund much cleaner than pulling it out of undesignated.
If I could, I mean, unless you want to wait for Kristen to go over your budget in general, I just had an overarching question
Go ahead.
about, only because you specifically called it out in your preamble. You talked about the cruisers, police cruisers. Right?
No, I didn't.
In here, well, I'm looking at the actual budget here.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we do
Yeah.
have
So-
two new cruisers at about 50,000 apiece.
Well, the only reason I'm asking about that is that, we've seen a lot of success, thanks to what you did this past year in terms of selling old stock on gov
Mm.
deals. But, and unless I'm missing it, is there a line in here where we're saying, okay, we're getting rid of two cruisers? Here's what the depreciated value of those might be on gov deals and have an anticipated budget amount for that revenue source.
Hmm. I was gonna say, no, we haven't. And what we've been doing with that money is putting it back into Steve's pooled vehicle account.
Okay, so that's right. It goes
yeah.
right back into the department.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
stays in the capital budget.
Right,
Some of it, if it's an active cruiser that had been sold,
yeah,
it goes into the police
Right.
vehicle line. If
Okay.
it's not, then it goes into pool
Yeah.
vehicles.
so it will directly offset the costs anyway, the future costs anyway.
Right,
Mhm.
and would show up in the balance, just as a total number
Okay.
in that capital budget pooled vehicles line.
Yeah,
It-
Yeah.
It becomes part of that.
and we'd run the cruisers out. We were getting rid of them between 90 and 100,000 miles previously. We're now running them about 130,000 miles. Some of them are up to 155. So a little bit more on the maintenance line, but at the same time, we don't have to buy another vehicle.
Right.
It's worth it. And they seem to be doing fine.
So we'll discuss the SIP at each meeting, capital improvement plan, and we have one of the meetings will cover the whole police department. So
Right.
We'll try and stay on just the things on the agenda for today. Because I think we have a lot to talk about on the capital plan overall. So, okay, thank you. Andre, questions?
Not yet. Nope.
Okay. All right, Kristen.
Okay, all right. I will start with the mayor's office. Salaries, that's HR and finance input those. So that's on contracts and things of that nature. So I'll start with town newsletter reduction, 50% reduction this year from 12,000 to 6,000 for that. We've had just great success with Essex Printing, the new newsletter company, and everything there is really covered by advertising sales now. Everyone gets that booklet quarterly. So what we really are being charged for monthly is just the mailing costs. So I'm confident that, again, it can always fluctuate depending on what their ad sales are each quarter, but I'm very confident that that will be under that $6,000 mark for the town newsletter for next year.
So the $4,000 for the revised budget, that's what you're anticipating spending on postage for this year.
It's 6,000 in for this year. Are you?
FY '22 revised budget, $4,000.
Right, that's this current year.
That's
Right,
yep.
currently,
Right.
yes, I
So
have
we're looking-
6,000 in for next year.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So it's an additional 2,000 in postage from this year's.
So
revised
12,000
budget.
was budgeted this year, but we're only spending 4.
Right.
Yeah,
So what I'm saying is that it's an additional $2,000 from what we're actually spending this year.
yes, and
Yes.
just leaving some room in case we
Right.
don't have the same level of advertising sales. Sorry, does that
Gotcha.
answer
Okay,
the
that
question?
makes
Yeah,
sense.
leaving room, so 4,000 right now is what we're spending for the mailing, and we're not covering anything else. Advertising is covering it all, but leaving us a little $2,000 in there in case we don't have those ad sales.
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
believe we incurred savings when we moved to the town newsletter because we had multiple newsletters going out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, in 2021, we budgeted $25,000 for that line. So we've seen some great savings over the years with that. Operating expenses in the mayor's office. This is mayor's stationery, proclamation folders, things of that nature, business cards for everybody. So no change in that amount there, $2,600. And then the final line in the mayor's budget is the contingency remaining at 10,000. Any questions on the mayor's office?
We brought that number down over the years
Yeah.
too, from probably 15 or 16. Let me look back.
The contingency.
Yeah.
Contingency,
What do you-
and
what do you usually use that for?
So primarily, sometimes random things, sometimes,
The pizza parties,
Yeah,
Marshall.
there you go. I might
Yeah.
literally order pizza, and it's a goodwill thing to bring everybody into my
Yeah.
office and have
Yeah.
all the town workers get pizza one day. One year I used it when I had to go down and testify with Congress. So I had actual expenditures of flying and lodging and stuff, but generally, not bad.
okay, and I'll move on to administrative support, contract maintenance. This is our Redgo contract, so it's all of the copiers in Town Hall and Town Hall Annex, as well as our ROW security, all of the panic buttons in the building. So that is all of our copying costs. The fire hydrant, that 10,900 is our contribution to the water budget.
Bless you.
ADA compliance. I am also the designated ADA coordinator. Every town with 50 or more employees needs to have a designated ADA coordinator. So this is for different supplies. Right now, since I am new, there's 9 courses within 3 years that I need to take. So there's a cost associated with those. So that's for training courses and any supplies we may need to be ADA compliant.
Chris, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you. Could you
Sure.
go back to the fire hydrants? I
Sure.
missed what you said.
That is our contribution to the water budget for the fire hydrants. So that's an internal, Marcia, an internal transfer.
Okay.
Yeah, that was for maintenance of the hydrants.
Right.
And then legal ads, these are all of our legal advertisements that we are putting in the day newspaper. So everything for all departments in town hall go through this budget in administrative support. WPCA water. So this is our water bill for town hall and town hall annex from Groton WPCA, as well as all of our bottled water that we have in the break rooms. This I did increase this year. We've been budgeting 2,500, but we've been spending around 3,600 a year. So I just thought it best to actually have it be actual of what we spend in that line for water. Okay. Moving along, a few more in administrative support. Non-instructional supplies, the 6,500. Again, this is everything, pens, paper, folders, all of the supplies for everybody in town hall.
Other supplies.
Yep, the non-instructional supplies, 6,500. So that's, again, the mayor's office has like his specific stationery, proclamation folders, the proclamation paper, things like that. But this is pencils, paper, folders, notebooks for everybody here at town hall.
So that's just to get his mayoral stamp on the notes, right?
Then our other miscellaneous services here, the 18,000, that is our rental for our Pitney Bowes postage machine. Any supplies that we need for the postage machine, and then it's all of our postage fees, all of our postage costs, the 18,000 there. Dues and fees, we have our COG membership in there for dues and fees, miscellaneous dues and fees. is the 11,1200 is the CCM membership. And so that is administrative support. Any questions on specific lines and administrative support?
Yeah, Chris, I was fiddling with my mouse, which isn't working.
Yeah.
Did you cover telephone and fax? It's at 0. Did you mention that?
No, I didn't. If it's at 0, it's probably.
Oh, that
just-
was transferred over to Regina's
Okay.
budget a couple of years
Yeah.
ago.
Okay.
Excuse
Right.
me.
So is general, is the PDF copy of the mayor's proposed budget different than what you're reading off of? Because some of I was able to correlate the numbers, but some of the titles are different.
Oh, so I'm
Otherwise-
reading ClearGov titles here. Those a bit different.
They should be
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because I didn't say it earlier, I meant to. If you're in the back end of ClearGov, where you followed the link to get there, on the far right-hand side are narratives. Anything that's lit up in green,
Oh, yeah.
you can click on and see detail that the department heads have provided. And then, so that's usually at the uppermost part of the budget. So administrative support, for instance, if you go to the top administrative support line and go to the far right, there should be a green page.
Paperclip.
Yeah,
Oh, that, yeah.
paperclip. Yeah,
Paperclip.
paperclip. So anything that's green, you can click on and it will give you more detail. Also, there are some departments where additional comments were made within each line item. Also available on the far right in green.
So it's like I've attached like the COG letter, you can see all of those sorts of things
Okay.
in there. Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
like sticky
PDF,
notes.
I have a question, though, this really isn't about the numbers as much as the dues and fees, and are we members of COST?
No,
Have you considered
yeah,
joining?
yeah. I just didn't know that financially we were able to. I think it's as much as $5,000 to $7,000 more.
Mm,
I like cost a lot. We used to be members of both.
mhm.
And then somewhere along the way, it was cut out
What's
before my
Yeah,
time.
I think in
Council of
2015,
Small Towns.
Yeah,
Oh.
and you
Where
checked this year
CCM
to see what the
Yeah.
cost was,
Yeah,
right?
and I
really
think it was
leans
like
into the- into
5,500.
the Cities.
Yeah.
COST has a different voice.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
think when we made that decision, we felt at the time we weren't getting the value, but those things can change.
yeah, right.
So.
Yeah, it depends on how interactive the mayor wants to be.
Right.
Like cost meetings and CCM meetings, I mean, I try to go to a lot of them. I mean, CCM, I should say, not cost, but there's a lot of value there. It's just a matter of whether you engage.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
any other questions on the administrative support?
No, just a general comment about questions. I think it's helpful for people participating and for the minutes to see that we ask these questions. There's so much information in the narratives that is there, but if we don't talk about it, nobody knows that we talked about it. So I haven't played a lot with the icons, but in the former versions of the capital budget, they're huge narratives, and in the old version of capital, again, huge narratives. So it's helpful to talk about these things, even though we don't know the answer.
All right, next, legal services. Again, no change to those amounts for this year. We have other outside legal, so that may be labor, tax attorneys, assessor, and then that's 30,000, and then 20,000 in for our town attorney. So those are our legal lines for this year. Any questions on legal?
I think you have a question.
Well, do we think, I mean, based on last night, do we want to keep this at this number or for next year, I mean?
Yeah.
Or think about increasing it? I don't know how long the cases that the attorney talked about last night are
I
going to
know.
continue on. I mean, do we want to be realistic about it or?
It's part of.
Yeah, I think generally we've fallen within this budget every year.
We have, yeah.
So because that one, unfortunately, that one
Right.
invoice from May that just came through late, that was like $8,200. Had that not happened, we probably would have been still very close this year. But I still don't think it's a bad number to use. And that number originates from the law firm in advance of the budget year. where Roxanne reaches out to them and says, please give us an idea of what we can expect for this year. And then they will identify any issues that they may feel could be coming up and say, here's what we think you should budget.
So that $8,200 was from FY 21 though, right? For-
22.
Yeah, $8,900, the end of.
Yeah.
FY 22.
Okay,
Yeah. But we closed out that fiscal year. It was a May invoice. We closed the fiscal year on June 30th and we received the invoice in August.
And based on what we heard last night, without disclosing anything from the executive session, I think the number's good.
Okay.
And we can always, we have a process, if we need to change it. So,
Okay, moving
Yeah.
along, probate, other purchase services is probate. This is for the shared services that we have through Groton that runs our probate. So this is for the service provided as well as the space for probate. So again, no change this year to that line. And then the final line in the mayor's budget is the health district. So this is Ledgelights fee. The per capita for this year is $7.59. And the population, they use the population reported by the Department of Public Health. So you will see a bit of an increase for the health district's fee for this year based on the per capita and the population.
I noted that the probate judge has office space in Groton that is either going away or. I forget what that-
Yes.
They're trying to grow.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was it.
They're
Yeah,
trying to find a
yeah.
new space, I believe, in one of the
One of the old
old
schools.
schools. You
Yeah.
know, the middle schools, I think, consolidated to one. So there is a letter asking for potential additional funds for
Yeah.
us to share into that, but there's no estimates. It's
Yeah,
just kind of,
right.
so far, it's only been a heads up
Yeah.
that they're looking to
Yeah.
move into new offices and reaching out to the towns to potentially share in that cost, but we don't have any specific numbers yet.
My thought on it was only that if that space doesn't work out, or if we happen to have extra space, the probate judge used to be in each town, and we had a probate judge chambers here. I don't believe it's available, but it's something food
Oh, yeah.
for thought if we
Hmm.
suddenly think we have space.
Oh, right.
looking into-
Yeah, and as you know, Beth was on our, the
Finance
ARPA
meeting. Mhm.
informational
Right.
session, and she put in a request, kind of a request then, but again, there's no numbers, so we have no idea what the build out cost would
Yeah.
be in this school, and we
Yeah.
still don't.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, that's all for the mayor's budget.
132 right on time.
All right.
well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
That's right.
Kristen. Let me see who's next.
I am.
Yeah.
Marcia, is there, so I'm looking at the back end
Thanks,
of,
Kristen. I'll see you in a bit.
of ClearGov,
Uh-huh.
and under mayor's office, things like legal services don't appear as its own separate subject.
It's farther down.
Yeah, I see it. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
not under the mayor's office. but
Right.
It is
It is under the mayor's
accounting
office.
wise.
Yes. No, accounting wise, it's its own separate
Yeah, no, it's-
department, if you will, but it is supervised by the mayor.
so under general government
Mhm.
on ClearGov, we have
Yes,
town council, historic districts, mayor's office. And then when I expand mayor's office, all I see is salaries and wages, and then the other sublines underneath there, and then other expenses.
right.
I don't see legal services. It's down further. in its
Right.
In its own line.
In its own department, yes.
Right. Okay, but it's considered in the mayor's office.
Right.
Okay,
As is, and you'll notice that probate,
yep, and health,
health district are
Right.
like that too.
is there a reason we don't wrap those up under the mayor's office visually, or if we're talking about them from?
There was a certain amount of, we upload our files to ClearGov,
Yeah,
and then because of the way the ORD codes are set up in Munis,
yep,
that's how it comes out visually.
Okay.
I have a meeting with them on Monday, so I can ask how we could have
Yeah.
have them move.
oh, no, I was just curious because I was, trying to follow Chris, jumping around instead of just being right under the mayor's
Yeah.
office, right?
Yeah.
It is confusing,
Yeah, okay, well, at least I'm not the only one, all right?
but you get used to it, Tim.
Well, hold on. I've heard a lot of, that's just the way we've done it.
Well,
So
doesn't
let's
have-
keep doing
Mayor
it.
has that written on his wall, but-
I try not to say it that way.
Same thing. I think he's looking at the same thing where he's
Um,
on the front side. of
oh,
ClearGov.
yeah, I need to send him a link.
Okay.
So I will
Oh,
do
there
that
you go.
as soon as I'm done with finance.
I
I can't reach you under the table.
You can kick me.
Kick him.
It's all
Can't
right.
reach him.
Okay, we'll throw something out.
So Matt is at home today,
Yeah.
not feeling well at all. And so I'm going to present the finance budget.
Okay.
Yeah, he's on, but
Yeah, we see him.
he's not feeling well. So
Sorry, Matt.
and he's having screen issues, I think, still. So this is very short. The only things that have increased, well, let me go through salaries and wages first. The finance fiscal assistant one, where you see zeros, that we have 2 fiscal assistants. And they are now both under assistant wages, that $86,413 line. And there's no increase from the current year because they are in negotiations. So those salary increases in this budget show up under salary benefit adjustment in the employee expenses department that Don will talk about next. The other salary increases are department head wages. So the department head requested increase for next year is 2.5%. So that applies to the department head wages and the assistant finance director wages. If you'll remember, Ian's salary for assistant finance director is still in the finance department, but the treasurer part of his salary is still in the town council budget.
Okay.
So we want to keep those separate in case that ever changes. Okay, then other expenses. Operating expenses, we're requesting it stay the same. Heating oil and propane. Wait a minute. I'm sorry, I don't have. I'm trying to get the current year budget.
That's up 10 grand.
Yeah, so heating oil and who knows? That's a crapshoot.
Mm.
And the same with electricity, we increased it a bit. And then, let's see, electricity is, as of 12/31, as you can see, was pretty high. So that may be higher next year, but I just went with a small increase. Training, meetings, dues, and subscriptions is a big increase. We're asking for the increase so that Matt can utilize whatever Munis training he needs, because we're going to be having another upgrade. And Ian understands and knows Munis very well, but when we have upgrades, there's a lot of time and effort spent on training. So that's for that. And that is it. Oh, are Kathy and Adriana coming over, or am I handling that? They're not. So
They're not coming over? Okay.
no. The assessor has an increase in,
Oh, yeah.
So before we go on,
uh-huh,
Marcia, I think we may have to come back and take a look at electricity because we're at 80-something% spent.
and that could
I'm sorry,
include,
it's
Ian, could you?
65% spent.
65. okay.
Yeah. That's an actual, not an
Yeah,
encumbrance.
and that's at 50, halfway through the year, so
Yep.
it should be around 50, so looks like we might have to look at that.
What we don't know is how much electricity the panels on the town hall and the library actually produce.
Yeah,
But those are gonna be coming down as
Right.
part of the roofing project, and if we don't have a plan to put new ones up, or maybe even look into buying our own panels and having our own system on a brand new roof like this one, south
Yeah.
facing, and a bunch of the town hall, something we should look at.
good idea. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, and the assessor, there are no other questions on finance?
Nope.
Salary and wages, the supervisors union went up, is going up 2.35 next year. That's Adriana's position. The assistant position is in negotiations. Other expenses, contract maintenance and leases is the vision.
Oh, yeah, that's the cloud, yeah, that's the cloud-based vision software now that we went to the cloud after 21, I guess.
So they have a small increase. The actual for the year is because she has paid, so it's a one-time payment for the year. And so she's done paying that. And
What is the vision? We're talking about appraisal, right?
Yeah, vision appraisal, yeah,
yes,
that's the assessor software.
and if there are no other questions on the assessor,
Operating is expense, it's a small line item, but it's only 29% for the year.
yeah, they tend to wait until near the end of the year, and then they buy all their special paper and everything for assessing.
Okay.
And then the tax collector. Salary and wages, the tax collectors in the supervisors union, 2.35. Same with the assistant in negotiations. Then other expenses, there is a large increase. Well, first of all, there's a big decrease in contract maintenance leases
Mhm.
because they are getting rid of their folding machine because they don't use it, and it's a real bear to try to use, and we farm out most of the bills. So they hand fold whatever bills they do send. The not supplemental, but when they rebill, the rebillings are just hand folded. So that's a savings. And then the operating expenses is increasing because, let me look at the narratives.
Mhm. I'll look through my notes.
And we had a discussion about it. I'm just forgetting what it was.
Armored car.
No, we're
Oh, that's
not,
right, we're not doing it.
we're not doing that. Everything is just taken over to dime, right, Ian?
Correct.
Oh, how about the CCMC classes? They increased in cost. That was plus 17.5%.
Well, that's,
They were adding a black and white laser copier. Is that one of them?
Oh, the receipt validators
Okay.
was one. The outsourcing of taxes.
Yeah, the folding machine's costing us $167 a month plus $100 a month for maintenance and not getting used.
They do have a person that a third person that they bring in July and January for taxes. And that person stays about a month each time, a little bit before the beginning of the tax collection season, and then about a week afterwards to help
That's
file
wind
everything,
down.
wind it down. Yeah,
that's under operating expenses.
yes.
So that's why there's such a substantial increase. And the actuals for this year are only at $3,600.
Yes.
Did you have a salary line item?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, there's a seasonal helpline,
Yeah.
right? The very
Yeah,
first
the very
one
first
Oh, yeah.
is for the
So
tax season.
what's, if we, so
So it
what's
looks like you
under,
took the contract line down by 3,000, but you added the 3,000 to the operating. expense.
Operating, yeah.
well,
There, I think it's the receipt validators. They're trying to, they're increasing that by 2,400 because they're replacing 3 of the 5.
Oh, that's right.
I think Ian,
Yep.
The majority of that line is spent, according to what I'm looking historically, is spent at the end of the year for the mailing and billing for next year's.
that's why we're
taxes.
only,
Like, it's like, I see just the month of June last year, we spent over $10,000 and to automated mailing services, which is the company that does our,
Right, so that's
Your
why
bills.
the year to date is so low,
Right.
but the increase for next year is the validators.
And we just moved those from the contract maintenance line to this.
Yes. Well, they decreased the contract
Right.
maintenance line because of the folder, and then, yeah,
Mhm.
she
But they
increased.
offset
it.
it by putting it into the
Right.
increase for the outside.
Right.
also.
Well, no, for the validators.
Yeah.
Yeah. The outsourcing stayed the same.
Okay.
So where's, what Ian mentioned, what, is that under tax collector or somewhere else?
the mailing.
Yeah.
That's under the operating expense.
Okay.
That's why
All
that,
right. Okay.
that's why the year
Yeah,
to
yeah,
date
yeah.
is so low compared to what
Mhm.
is budgeted. The majority of it is spent.
And she has her narrative. Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's easy.
So that is tax collector. Are there any other questions on those?
Is there, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Cal, I was gonna ask you guys.
MIS isn't
The,
on here anymore.
so kind of like how you rolled up certain expenses at, well, so in the mayor's office, for example, they had certain expenses rolled up for all departments. So it was all aggregated into one spot
Mhm.
for training and, you know, the dues and the subscriptions and all that stuff. Even under finance, you've got it under multiple areas. Is there any benefit to having that rolled up into one area under, say, not for every department, but for every, well, for every department, but underneath the department and not the sub-department. So like under finance, you have training under the heading of finance. In the specific department of finance, you have training, meetings, dues, subscriptions, right?
Mhm.
Then under tax collector, you have the same thing, right? It's different, I get it, different
Mhm.
people, different
Mhm.
training, stuff like that.
Yep.
But is it that way for a reason and not for other areas?
It's that way in finance because even though the assessor and collector fall under the finance director.
Yeah.
They really are sort of separate departments. They are very autonomous. For administrative purposes, they,
Right,
report to the finance director, but they really run their day-to-day pretty autonomously.
Also, if we have a new employee, like when we had to train a new tax collector, you want to show those training departments associated with the department. Otherwise, you can't, if you get a new employee, you lose sight of what you need to spend on training.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, if you have a new assistant tax collector who has to go to classes, but you've got a finance director who needs, in the middle of the year, oh, I'm gonna take this munis class and doesn't think about the other two departments.
Not my budget.
Yeah, we know how that
thank
goes.
you. I interrupted you.
No, I was just gonna ask you guys for your comments and questions. I don't have any.
Okay, I'm gonna set you up now.
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to call Regina since she doesn't show up on that list?
2:00.
Yeah.
Did not do till 2.
Oh, I'm sorry, she is on the list.
Oh.
Okay. Sorry,
To say, I
Should
don't
be
know.
here. We were
Okay.
just talking before.
I haven't had my
Okay.
post-retirement classes changed.
You need your own training line, don't you?
Oh, Marcia.
So is ClearGov ever going to replace Munis for us? Is that the
No.
ultimate intent? No, they do different things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just the budget part. And then,
Okay.
but we still have a budget component in Munis that all of this will get uploaded to after the process is all over.
Okay,
we don't ever want the public to have to deal with Munis.
no. I will,
We don't even want Don to have to deal with
It would
Munis.
go horribly wrong.
Finance doesn't like me.
Oh, we love Munis.
I love you.
No, we don't.
Why not?
It's
gosh,
not an
my eyes
intuitive
crossed.
system at all.
My
It's
eyes
definitely one of
crossed.
those things you have to use every day in order to love. it.
Yeah,
and you have
I
to-
think Matt loves Munis too.
yeah.
Honestly,
Super powerful. I love it.
He loves it.
It is.
Well,
That
good.
is like, all right, I'm sorry. That is the dorkiest thing I have heard today.
I love Munis.
I've been consulting in Preston and they use what I call the diet munis. It's
Oh.
basically the munis made for like smaller towns. And I don't like that system.
Yeah. I know North Stonington was actually still using is it QuickBooks? Yeah.
Yeah.
QuickBooks, it's
Serious?
yeah, which
That's what
I
Preston
couldn't
just
believe.
upgraded
I'm
from.
thinking that system can't be
Yeah,
enough,
serious.
it can't be robust enough. But North Stonington's still making it work.
It's North Stonington.
Yeah.
There's not much there to be.
Right, I mean, there's a couple
So-
thousand people and a couple thousand taxpayers, maybe, yeah.
Whoa.
There's really only two. It's the Munis and I think one other one that most people use, most municipalities.
Infinite Visions is what Preston is using, and which is what a lot of the smaller
Okay.
towns converted to a few years ago when, I forget the company, but there was a company that they were all using in Connecticut that shut down and stopped producing the software. So they pooled together to go out to bid. And most of them, and Infinite Visions is made by Tyler Technologies,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is also the same company that Munis.
Right.
Is run by.
What did we have before? Munis?
Walsh,
Oh,
Walsh,
that's
Walsh
right.
Associates.
That was a
right.
local operation too.
we still have them for taxes
Yeah.
and the tax office loves
They
them.
do. We had we're looking at a replacement.
We're waiting
to-
for motion, for
Regina.
Regina.
Very nice.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
Don's next.
Keep talking, that's fine.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm sitting here. I'm like, why are we
Let's
waiting?
go.
Yeah.
Take my time. my
Yeah.
friend. It's fine.
Sounds like, oh, time's up, gotta go.
Don, you're up.
Oh.
Yeah.
You'll need to follow that one.
Uh-oh, this is the guy with the big number in his budget.
All right, I don't have access, so if you're seeing something that's, off for this year's budget, you'll have to
All right.
remind.
Employee
refresh me.
expenses.
Well, let's make sure I'm looking at the right thing too, because
I know.
I'll come sit next to you.
Oh, you
There you
got
go.
the current year.
So, is this all, so it's human
This is
resources,
current.
I start,
human
comp
resources, staff and employee expenses.
No.
Property insurance, I believe, is part of it.
Oh,
I didn't even
on the
see.
website, that's-
Yeah, I know. I know. You'll pull it.
But wait. I don't even,
Mine starts at the comp time liability line.
I am not sure which general.
No, you've got
Are you-
admin, human resources, 4 or 5
I've got
lines above.
human resources.
And then employee expenses.
That's it, not property insurance?
No,
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So it's the employee expenses line we're talking about. I
wait,
never did.
all right, so from under expenditures, where am I going? I'm really lost.
What are we starting with, employee expenses?
For you and accelerator.
Well, I'm trying to do clear though, but.
yeah, go
Okay.
to,
Nice.
under general government
It needs, yeah.
and
Yeah, and you just took that right out. of
It's the second to last one under general government.
Well, no, this is the one Marcia said, but
Oh,
that's
the one I
Oh,
said
oh.
it about.
All
Yeah,
right,
that's
it
okay.
wasn't, it just
Yeah, I know,
wasn't
the-
scrolling enough, okay.
the scrolling
She
is
said
weird
it's one
because
you
there's
said
this
yesterday.
scroll and there's
Yeah,
a
there's
scroll on
two
the
scrolls
far right.
on the side.
Okay.
And then this
You
is
said
what I
all?
meant about the,
I added a couple columns to it.
yes, I got that. That's what I was looking at.
Yeah, so
I was able to
mine is
open.
hers with 2 added columns.
yeah,
That's one. I paid the yellow, but.
Okay.
yeah, and then there's one for, there isn't one for human resources, but there is for employee expenses.
Okay.
Where, Or is that-
No, it's not what she's, hold on.
no, I thought that's what you said.
Nope.
Okay.
That's what I sent yesterday, but this morning. I sent something else, so let me find out what she said.
All right, you sent it to Andrea and I? Oh,
I would do.
Let me make sure. Yeah. 11 something, more like 12.
Spreadsheet with 2
Why is
columns
this
added for.
Yep.
accounts.
That's it.
And not myself. It's more than myself.
You're getting a big raise, buddy.
Let me know.
We'll come back to that then. or-
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna start, Marcia's checking, because this is not reflective of my salary, it's a little bit high. So I'm gonna jump down.
Savings.
I'm
What's our
gonna-
line item?
I'm gonna jump down to the employee expenses and just quickly try to walk through those. The comp time liability has been zeroed out. We've been working across through the negotiation process to take that out of all employees' contracts, to just do away with the whole issue of the liability thing and the fact that if an employee is gonna work extra hours, they just get overtime for it and we move on. Healthcare for both the town side, well, healthcare is the town side, healthcare BOE obviously is the Board of Ed. Those numbers have been reviewed ad nauseum for the last 2 weeks and I believe are pretty damn close to good shots for the year.
The 5774,
Pardon me?
the 5774.
Yep. The healthcare waivers is what we pay for employees who,
So
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, Don,
Yep.
on the employee for the town side, healthcare increases 6.44%. I thought we were looking at 8.5.
we are, but those, I went through those and looked at the current changes and some, because we've had several people who've dropped out of the
Got it.
plan this year,
Yep.
opted out, and new hire. So I try to do that figure
Yeah,
on
if I
that,
do
so
I
it's,
can get them to.
you know,
change it.
I'd be more than happy to go to 8% if we want to, but I think,
No.
you know, the numbers is pretty good or something, at least that, you know, I'll be responsible on the other end of it. Again, the waivers are for people who waive the health insurance. And those are all over the board, depending on what union you're in as to how much you get. Some of them are still tied to 2018 rates. And some are, you know, locked in. You can only get 25% of a single policy, even if you're a family waiving. So those numbers are all juggled around and that's a pretty firm number. The benefits consultant is for our Lindbergh Ripple, specifically Joe Spurgeon, who helps across. I just sent him some questions today. And then he also does his big project for the year is the blending of the insurance rates for the Board of Ed. ACA fees are gone. They finally expired. We don't know those. Healthcare firefighters, they, along with the Teamsters, have their own healthcare plans. So those are based on actual numbers and projections. And I did do 8% increases for the firefighters. We don't know what their policy, their premium change will be because they do it on a calendar year. So I will get some notice in late fall of what the next year's, but I budgeted 8% anyway. I'm sorry,
On the firefighters?
correct,
We
had-
said 8% increase?
correct. And we had one firefighter drop off this year.
Oh, so
I had a family
gotcha.
plan. Yep,
So it's a net decrease,
Total
yeah.
per day.
correct. Sorry. I'm trying to look at my note. My notes should be in,
Yeah.
whenever you can see the notes, they should explain some of that stuff, I hope. The next one was Teamsters. That's a contractual amount that we pay per hour that they work. And miscellaneous employee expenses is just basically a catch-all. I don't even know if did I break it out and show 5203, sorry. One of the expenses in that is the EAP program, which is $1.39 a month per employee. So those things all come out of the miscellaneous expenses. The pre-employment testing is all broken out in my notes between drug screening, background checks, physicals, steroid screening, the new steroid screening required for the police. That is for new hires, obviously, but also whenever a police officer goes for his every 3 year, they get recertifications. They have to go through the whole drug screen steroid process at that point too. Those are almost $200 a shot.
Question, when you say your notes, you're talking about on ClearGov?
They should be on.
I don't see anything on ClearGov for pre-employment testing. You say there's a note.
Yes.
Do you
Well,
have the
so
narratives open?
No. I'm right there.
No, so what you should see is
I should see a green.
this
thing
one
here,
right here. Yeah, green
Go all the way to the top
paperclip at the top of the beginning of the.
Oh.
where
I
it
thought it
says
was on the
employee
sp-
expenses.
I
It's,
thought I was looking at the specific line.
yeah, no, it's the
Sorry.
beginning of each
Okay.
item,
Some of-
heading.
Yeah, you
Okay,
may find that
gotcha.
that
Yep,
is
thank you.
case with some.
Had
of
I
it.
scheduled ClearGov training. we wouldn't
Oh,
have
this is
questions.
Phil's fault. Okay.
I was like, we don't need
All right.
that.
Andrea and I are doing it after this, so if
We
you
are.
Are
guys
you
want to
really?
hang.
Yes.
I wish I
Yeah.
could. I can't.
So you cut me out. You purposely didn't tell me.
No, I thought
just-
no, not at all. I figured you guys worked
No, we
something
didn't.
out and she was letting me know.
No, I took control because Bill wasn't doing it.
I am trying to look
Listen,
at three
we're getting
different
training
things
real
to see
time right
which
now.
one
Look
is
at this. It's great. Thanks, Bill.
my
We'll figure it
eye.
out. What we
Sorry to
got?
interrupt.
Let's
All
go.
right. Contractual expenses includes longevity, which is still in everybody's contracts, degree reimbursements, those types of things, phone and uniform allowances that are in contracts. And also a dollar amount in that, you'll see it in the notes, The Public Works contract has a payout for any employee who accumulates more than 700 hours of total sick time. And we have two gentlemen up there who never use their sick time. So every year they get paid for the 150 hours of additional sick time that they accrue. So that's budgeted into that. Retirement cash outs is always a crapshoot because we never know how many are going to retire. So we budget for 3 projected retirements because they usually run about 25,000 a piece.
I just don't know, what's a retirement cash out? Is that just the cash?
It depends on
reward
the
or something?
contract. So some of them get
Oh,
a
okay.
certain level of their sick time that they've accrued. Some of them
Ah.
get half of the sick hours that they've
Okay.
accrued. We have to pay out vacation accruals.
Except, oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah, but the biggest chunk of it is sick time because they're supposed to
Right.
use their vacation.
They get paid for the unused sick time.
Correct.
I bought a new guitar with mine.
It's true.
Damn expensive guitar.
Well, I had a lot of money left over.
Payroll
Please.
expenses is the cost of our, in the cloud, time, what's called Time Force for our timekeeping system for everybody. Retirement is the contribution. Was that changed? Sorry, that wasn't changed.
Yeah, it was.
It's 1.1. I thought it went to 1.3. Based on the recommendation of the actuaries, the contribution for the defined benefit plan, as we work to become fully funded. I thought that went to 1.3. Sorry, I just noticed that. Well,
Which column are you on? The department one?
I'm on the retirement. one.
Yeah, I know, but which column?
Mayors. Final budget.
Is it 1.3?
I thought they had approved 1.3.
163.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he's saying he thought that new,
I thought
new advice.
the retirement board had
Oh,
approved the 1.3.
they did, and I put it in the budget. What's it showing on? the-
1.1.
1.1.
1,163,000.
All right, so we'll get that cleared
Yeah.
up, all right. Defined contribution plan, that is the approximate cost for the town's matching for the employees. And again, that is by contract. Some are, I think we have the lowest one now at 6, and the top one is at 10% matching for the police department. So salary benefit adjustments is again, just a number we put in to adjust for any contracts that are negotiated and settled during the year for the retros and for going forward for that year when the money hasn't been budgeted for the salary increases for those members.
But we do it based on a formula.
Correct.
We don't just plunk it.
So
in.
that would be a combination of percentage wage increase and number of employees.
Right.
Correct.
And you said there's a formula you use, right? So this year, so far halfway through the year, we spent just under 29.
Yeah, different contracts.
We have, this year, we only had a contract with, it was supervisors and please help me. Who do the other?
That was last year's budget process. Supervisors and
healthy
nurses. Is
nurses.
it nurses?
Nurses.
Yeah.
And that also is impacted by when in the year we settle it. You know, like some of them, we've been, 8 or 9 months into the year, and then you got to do the retros. So workers' comp is, where am I? Sorry. Social Security is obviously a fixed number based on the projected salaries. Unemployment comp is, again, another crapshoot, depending on how many people are terminated or leave. And just so you're aware, anybody, even when they quit to take another job, if the other job doesn't work out after 2 weeks, they start claiming unemployment and we pay for it. Thank you, state government of Connecticut. Workers' comp, again, is a fixed number based on the cost of the premium, the insurance, and it's split between, as you can see, between the board and the town based on the number of employees that are covered. Life and disability insurance covers the life insurance policy that we take, that is taken out for every employee or every benefited employee in the town. And those also are based on contracts. Some are as low as 10,000 policy, others are 50. So it's a combination of those things.
But those are pretty well set expenses, right?
Correct. Yep.
So we've, again, the actuals for halfway through the year for this are $8,000. So we pay more on the back end of the year.
No, it's on a monthly basis. I'd have to look at that. I'm not sure what's driven.
I
by.
mean, say if it's a fixed expense because it's a premium, right?
Correct, yes,
This is a premium we pay.
correct.
So it's it should be a fixed monthly expense. Or no, it might,
Well, I mean, it fluctuates a little bit because depending on how many employees are here and what their rates are.
I think you see where I'm going. with
Yes,
this.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, We've spent $8,000 for 6 months of the year. We've got a budget of 23.
Oh, I'm
Again,
sorry. So there's the life insurance also includes
Yeah.
the long-term disability insurance for the police department. And I don't know if maybe that's not being correctly done because that's a $900 a month alone. The liability and the long-term liability that we pay for the police department.
Yeah.
That is, I know that's $900 a month alone, so roughly. So that would be what you're looking at right now. I don't know if the number's correct. We have to look at that.
Yeah.
There's also
Very-
there's a timing issue.
Yeah.
So with December being a crazy month,
Yeah.
I'm guessing that a lot of stuff didn't get paid till January,
But that would still just only be 1 month,
right?
right? And so,
So it's 37%, you got roughly 12% or 14% per year.
per month,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, that's, with any straight line expense, obviously with some of the ones that you're like, well, we can't really predict like the retirement cash out and stuff like that. But for stuff like premiums, which should be easily predictable, right?
Ian's looking it up right now, I believe.
It just, for me, it sends a red flag when it's like, okay, well, we're supposed to have this much per month, we're planning on it, and then it's not coming out.
Is
that way.
LTD every month or is that
Yes.
quarterly?
No, it's every month. One of the things that Ian just pointed out to me, and I don't know. how-
This would
what
be,
it
this
affects-
is just a minor example.
We-
It's not gonna
Right,
move the
so
needle too much.
in the police department, the full-time officers who are still under the defined benefit plan, they pay the entire premium. So I don't, that would offset maybe what was budgeted last year. I don't know.
All right,
And we split the premium with or we pay the full premium for the police that are in the defined contribution plan, the DC plan. The police in the defined benefit plan pay the full, right,
out of this line item.
correct.
And so based on the premiums you're expecting for 23, this number is what you're expecting, which is the,
23.
sorry.
I will review those
Yeah, the
again.
23.
I'll review them again.
Oh, no, I was just curious.
Yep.
Again, it's like I was telling Marcia, anytime there's something that we can easily predict a monthly, recurring monthly expense, it
Right.
isn't something that's a question mark based on who claims it and who doesn't,
Right.
right? But this would be one of those I would
Yeah.
think is.
I mean, it would only
easy to
fluctuate
predict.
by number of people.
Correct.
So,
Thank you.
I checked the retirement and that number is correct. It went up 3%, or we are,
Yeah, because we're in one of those off years.
right?
Based on what
That's
I'm
the correct
looking
number.
at for,
116.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry.
based on what I'm looking at for the, that line in the police, for the life and
Long-term.
so the monthly expense usually looks around just shy of $2,000. But like you said, the police officers
Offset by,
offset. So did you budget for the full
I
expense?
did for the full expense, forgot about the offset.
Okay,
So I'll revise that and look at that again and get back.
So that might go down,
It
is what
might,
you're saying.
yeah.
Okay.
So I heard
Good catch.
1.16 mentioned, is that the correct?
That is
Yeah,
the
that's
correct
right.
number.
Sorry.
So every 2 years, they reset with a new number, and in those off years, they just say 3%.
Okay. COVID-19 expenses.
Mhm.
0 for 21, 22 and budget. Why is that? Do you have it somewhere else?
COVID expenses?
COVID-19 expense, last line in that.
Oh, under
section.
other, yeah.
Oh,
So
gee.
2 years ago, when we started all this mess with COVID,
Yeah.
I created that line for every department so that we could track
By department.
by department for when we reported. So that is just going to show up for a few years until
Okay.
we
All right.
can lop it off.
Reimbursements, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're looking at under finance. Like, small finance, not big finance.
Employee
I thought you
expenses.
were looking at, oh.
So
Yeah.
the org. means-
Oh,
Yeah.
on ClearGov, it's on there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's also on the printout of the mayor's budget printout under small finance
Oh, okay.
with money in it from 21.
Oh, is that it?
I think so.
Okay.
Problem is, I still can't get
I can't do it that way. Because you have to have. You can't.
So what about human resources? So we went through
Oh.
that.
Yeah, did you
I already created the account.
figure out why it's why it's 120? I think, I thought my projection was 117.
So now.
Front row.
Don't do that.
Which is
Go
fine.
here.
No, you're not.
Did you sneak in behind me, Regina?
She's been there for so
117.
long,
man.
quietly.
That's 2.5% on
Just
top of
waiting her turn.
117.
You got all this
Is
complicated
117 not your
equipment, so I
salary?
can't see Regina.
But it-
Oh, maybe I can. I have a good Zoom.
I'm not gonna question anything. She replaced my
No.
battery.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, if I
You're
keep
not a
talking, I
paycheck
get it to look at
watcher?
me and I'll see Regina behind me.
She was on time.
Of course
So
she was.
we're behind. Probably because of me. So.
So we're here for it.
6203.
I know you're not.
Sorry.
2 11-year-olds, otherwise they'd stick around later for that training. So.
Andre, for you. I'm not gonna pay attention. So Regina, why don't you come on up?
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, here, 117.
It's like Ian's
That
going camping.
120 is correct.
Can I just, I
This
apologize.
is one of those.
Your
times
seat
that
got
I-
taken.
Did I say Rob because I tried to help Don?
Just one final point. I guess the admin human resources,
The historical knowledge and the meta narrative, like I think she had it. Anyway, sorry.
sorry, that's okay. The salary projection is correct. I guess I make more this year than I thought I did. So,
Gotta check that paycheck.
The 7.9% inflation, it feels a little
Yeah.
different.
so that's correct. And obviously the training meetings and dues are, the various things that I either have owe dues for the Connecticut Public Employer Labor Relations Association and the Connecticut bar fees and stuff like that. All come out.
Okay. I'll take a look.
You ready for MIS? Here, Regina. All yours.
Okay, let's see. The video streaming, most of these actually go up by 3 to 5%. They're just contracts that we have. So the video streaming goes up by 3%, the website, upgrade/support goes up by 3%. The software support and maintenance. Let's see, the tax software actually goes up by 5%, as does Munis. So that is most of the fees. The rest are pretty much 3%.
So the 13.5% is due to,
Right, it's actually,
because none of the percentages you said were higher. than-
the biggest one was the ClearGov going up.
Ah,
Yeah.
So just for my education, is ClearGov and Munis, we need both of them, or one replaces the other? Or?
ClearGov creates more transparency to the community, so they can have access and
Right.
see what's going on
But
with
it's
the
not
budget.
something you use.
It does, it
Yeah,
it
but
is
I
not
just
an
don't
accounting
use it.
software. This is not, ClearGov is not an
Okay.
accounting software.
Yeah, okay.
Presentations.
Yes.
So we need, so we're operating under Munis and you two, we're looking at Munis until this year.
Yes,
When, during this kind of meeting. you
yes.
were-
They usually print
Last year,
outs.
yeah, last year it was
Ian would-
introduced.
Ian would do exactly what he was doing right now.
Yeah.
With Munis, he'd
Yeah.
look it up if we had a question, but we used a spreadsheet and we tried to use ClearGov.
Right,
last
last
year.
year was.
So
our
what about
first
the year
year.
before? You just looked at a spreadsheet?
Just spreadsheet.
Okay,
Yeah.
so who added ClearGov on?
So
Just
last year,
for-
we added the first kind of the dip in the toe in the water with
Yeah.
ClearGov for governmental transparency for like generally the public facing
Right,
side. We are using it too for budgeting, but for every day it's Munis.
So I imagine that there's no way, I'm sorry, Regina, this is.
Not a problem.
So when you guys use, Munis is what you're using for budgeting and keeping track and accounting,
Accounting,
right?
absolutely.
So is it administratively that, is it an administrative burden to export everything over to ClearGov, or is it pretty transparent for you guys?
We
It's-
just do a file,
File.
an Excel file, and they upload it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, they actually use, Munis is the municipal standard in financial software. And so any of these other companies that do budgeting, there's one that does just debt, they're,
Not QuickBooks.
no, they base their first financial software that they tailor to is Munis.
Okay, but since this is the first year of using ClearGov fully, that's why we're seeing a larger expense. Or that was this
Actually,
year.
we added
added
modules.
modules.
Yeah, we
Oh,
approved them all.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the dipping the toe in the water last year was like the introductory level of it. And now we're going
Okay.
kind of full in with it now. Public will be able to look in on that budget during the course of the year, see where our expenditures are going and things like that.
So the ClearGov was the largest increase on that financial, on the
That's
software.
correct.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So where, Tim, where did you see a 13%?
On the mayor's printout.
Yeah, the 13.5, yep.
Really?
But it's
For-
compared, see, that's what I was talking about earlier, is the
Yeah.
percentage increase
Yeah.
that's in this column on this printout is based on the FY 22 budget, not the revised.
Not the
budget.
revised, okay, and I did mine on the revised.
Well, that's what I would have done. And so that's why I was like, well, boy, it doesn't make sense to me why it wouldn't be off of the revised budget, but
You know, you can do that, right? You can change that.
on
Where my
ClearGov.
Excel spreadsheet,
Oh,
I
well,
had columns to what
Okay.
you sent.
No, no, but
We'll be fine.
yeah.
you can do it on ClearGov.
You can do it on ClearGov. You can change the column that it
Oh,
bases the increase on.
okay,
Really?
I'll have to schedule that training.
There you go.
I would love to stop
I'm getting too dorky for Andra. Let's move on.
This is-
That is.
ClearGov is
You
based on
did.
Excel,
You
so
definitely
it
did.
is.
I
an
get
Excel
excited by that. So
So Regina,
That's-
back to you.
Okay, here we go.
Let's see. The financial software and land use software did not go up. Which is nice. The repairs and maintenance. The big things there are really just the backup. UPS that we have goes up 3% for the support contract. That's the big thing there. And of course, firewall maintenance fees, those always go up too, but basically everything only went up by
Okay, so I gotta
1.7. The telephone and fax,
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
that has been a major challenge for me. We actually dropped down to 4 lines for alarms. And that actually went up. It's now $37 a line, which is, it's ridiculous.
So because we got rid of those fax lines, they're now charging us more per line for the remaining lines?
I don't believe so. I think it
Oh.
just went up.
Oh,
It just, they just increased.
because everybody's getting rid of their fax lines.
Absolutely.
so these lines, these telephone lines, are these just regular landlines, or are they VoIP, or are they?
No, they're just regular landlines, but they're for alarms, the alarm system.
Ah,
here and
Which can't
Got
work.
it.
with
They have to be
digital.
analog,
Yeah.
correct, yeah. We did move lines over to a situation that we dealt with. It's called Documo. And what it does is it actually digitizes the line. So we moved those lines that were fax lines over to that scenario. And it ended up being actually more expensive than if we had stayed with fax lines at this point.
So was Documo the e-fax?
Yes.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
had a lot of fax lines last year, and we said,
Yep.
can we get rid of these fax machines, stop paying for the fax machines, stop paying for the fax lines, which
Yep.
Virginia did.
Right.
Unfortunately, that scenario, I asked them what all is included, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of these companies, like Documo, have add-on fees eventually.
Mhm.
So the next year, meaning coming up, it's increased in cost. So it will save us no money eventually.
So if we had kept the fax lines, would we have incurred that cost increase on everything or?
We would have increased somewhat. We were paying like $31 last year a line for fax lines,
Yeah.
and it went up to 37, which is a lot of fees that they've added on.
Right.
So Frontier has added on,
So it's still a savings. We would have.
it still would have been a savings.
Yeah.
And right now I am looking at other solutions.
Do we still use landline faxes for communication? We don't scan documents in and send them for security purposes? Because I know that's one reason we
There are
we keep
certain-
those, but.
There's requirements, there's certain HIPAA.
Yeah, like the
requirements
nurses.
and
Yeah.
Nurses,
Yeah.
social services.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don. who's
The
close
state
to that.
requires us to have the one where when the, like, if
Yes.
there's a or an eviction,
Yeah,
the marshals actually still fax over the
Yes.
paperwork saying
yeah.
this
These
house is
antiquated
being
requirements.
evicted.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So,
So we really have, right now, let's see, we have nursing, social services, the one in the mayor's
Yeah.
office. I think those are the only three
think so
we have
too.
left.
Yeah.
And we are doing, the digital, it does move to digital, but we still fax, so to speak. So we have fax machines in place so we can get that through.
Right.
But then we digitize it.
right.
Nursing eventually will be going to a new software. They're working on it right now. And that's going to allow them to do digital faxes, meeting HIPAA requirements. A lot of softwares, the one you had mentioned does in fact do the HIPAA
Mhm.
and things like that. The only problem, and they don't have hidden fees. They put it right up there in front. They tell you, we don't have hidden fees. There were some problems with that in that they want an in-house server.
Mhm.
So, we have to look at that and see what that's going to, incur in cost. and things
At
like
that point, it's fax machines. cheaper.
Yeah, that's the.
So we
point.
did get rid of fax machines, so we're not paying for those, some. of them.
Right,
Right.
we are just, yes. If we go back, we would go back for 3, maybe 4 lines and that's it. We used to have 10.
Yeah.
So,
So 3 or 4 lines, that's of the almost $13,000, the fax lines are, you said $37 a month, 3 of them, so $100 a month. And then, so it's,
right,
they're a minority of this expense anyway.
that's correct, yeah. So, because we do have, within that telephone and fax service is also the PRI that we have.
What's PRI?
It's for the internet. So in other words, we have PRI over at the LPD, and we have one here, and it's actually, how do I explain it? It's a private, so in other words, it's kind of like fiber
Yeah,
where it's dedicated.
okay.
So basically, that's what we end up getting is a dedicated line. We have a dedicated line here, dedicated line over at the, well, they pay for their own though. So that is actually fairly expensive. It is, let's see, I believe it's like 500. We have a 100 MIPS on it. So we actually have probably a little over $500
A
that
month
we pay a month. So
for how many phones?
just No, it's just a dedicated line.
Oh, a dedicated line.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we pay for that. We also have the support and maintenance that we have for our VoIP system, through Total Communications and all of that.
Wait, so maintenance is included in that line, not repairs and maintenance?
Right, only because it deals with telephone. So our
Oh.
MyTel system that we have, and you'll see a line like that for the PD too. We split it off and we made them pay for their own, so.
Gotcha.
You only see our costs that we incur. And we have the MyTel system, which we actually pay for the support for that, all the trunks, things like that. And that's what the total communication line, that's under telephone and fax service. The actual internet service that we actually pay for, that's the next line is the internet service. And we actually pay for our fiber lines, we pay for our CEN, we go through the CEN for internet service, which has saved us a ton of money. The more municipalities and the more educational organizations that they get on board, the cheaper it gets.
Right.
So it's through, UConn actually takes care of all of that.
And that's town-wide internet service?
No.
No.
It's computer education.
Yep.
network.
Connecticut Education Network.
Connecticut
Yeah,
Education
Connecticut
Network,
Education
yes.
Network. And it's the schools and the towns fiber network. Schools in town only.
This 7,500.
It used to be just schools,
Yeah.
and then they opened it
Well,
up to
that's- so-
municipalities. It's over fiber,
So what are we paying 7,500 for? Is the internet service to the town and
Just the
schools?
town. No,
Just the town.
Just the
Okay.
town.
I meant the network is for schools.
Yeah, so it's
It's
town-wide.
the
Next
same thing.
Thursday.
Wait, is the
No.
internet service
Oh,
town-wide? or
No.
not?
It's not for residents. That's right.
No, I never said that. No, this is
Okay.
for municipal government.
Yeah, right.
right,
So-
but it's fiber here. So
Right.
we end up paying for the internet service. The fiber maintenance that we pay on that through Light Tower.
Yep.
Actually, I think they changed their name yet again. Is 600. So we paid that dedicated line. We pay CEN 5,400 for the fiber connection through the state.
Okay.
So
So,
Light Tower provides the fiber?
yes,
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But yes, to answer your question, it's townwide.
So that, go to Fred's office, you hop on the internet, that service
Yep.
is paid for out of this 7,500.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
We,
That's all I got.
yes, we have a box in our office that.
Or the Wi-Fi that I'm
CEN
on right
comes
now.
in.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, well, they
No
do.
library has their own.
Ah,
They do, yes. I believe they went with the CEN as well.
They did.
They were trying for a
Yeah.
long time. They weren't allowing libraries for,
Well, they just asked for, to apply for a grant to put
Yeah.
it in at the Gales Ferry Library.
okay,
Very expensive because they have to go to fire.
yes. Yeah, we ended up paying that, yes, on the front end of that.
Okay.
Let's see, and we also do have, there's something called a PSAP, which is actually at the LPD. We end up paying for that because what that is it's an emergency connection. It's $1,500 a year. And it's an emergency connection that allows us to have 25 MIPS just in case there's, something like if for some reason CEN goes down, the PSAPs are actually at the PD and the fire stations. So we pay a little extra for that so that we can just roll over to that in case of an emergency, so that our service can stay up and running. As ours are,
So is that also in?
that is rolled into internet service,
Internet?
yes.
Okay.
There's 3 items in
Yeah,
there.
okay.
Yep. Let's see. Okay, other,
Says libraries on Lyon Regional Computer Network.
That's
That's
book sharing.
Yeah, that's a book sharing cooperative.
the other supplies is just, that's strictly things like paper. We have toner, we don't really have much in the inkjet cartridge anymore. It's mostly toner.
Yep.
And things like that. Business cards is a big one. Yeah, everybody wants business cards. But that hasn't really gone up. It's just consumables. So we try to keep it low. Let's see, the computer equipment. That line is an extra line. It's just things that are emergent, broken items based on aging for if we have to replace a motherboard, a monitor, memory, hubs, switches, things like that.
Battery.
Exactly, battery, yes. Those things
So-
are expensive.
So how do we buy new computers?
That's through the sinking fund in the SIP.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
What?
Sinking, the reserve fund.
Ah.
We can't call it sinking fund.
Yeah, you're right, you're right. You're
Doesn't
right.
sound good.
I know.
We're what?
The sinking fund.
Probably not politically correct to say
it's the
sinking
SIP.
fund,
Yeah,
right?
it's the
Yes,
capital improvement.
people get confused, yes. The next line item that you'll see an increased cost. Let's see, the computer software. So in there, we have things again that, you know, may go up by a percentage or two based on just costs of software going up. So we have especially the antivirus, that's always going up. We have something called Mail Archiva, which is our archiving software for our email systems. We also have something called Landsweeper, which is our way of networking all of the, monitoring all of our networking and things like that. We did last year actually have something called TeamViewer in place, which is an incredible piece of software that allows us, of course, we were working at home for the most part, so we could hook to anybody's PC and take over their PC and deal with whatever issues they were having on their PCs. So we kept that going. We also added Zoom during the pandemic. So we have 10 licenses for Zoom so that whatever we need to do for folks that have the meetings, commissions, committees and boards, we can deal with the Zoom meetings.
So that's falling under computer software, or yeah.
It
computer
is, yep,
software.
yep.
And meeting management up above, that's for iCompass.
Meeting management.
Yeah, up 10 lines or so.
Of course, I'm not looking at what you're looking at, so. Meeting management.
So right under wages. The wages, then training.
Oh. Yeah, I'm not seeing
16,228.
Yep.
Yeah,
16,000.
it's just a line of, this is meeting management.
It's object
It's called video
53655.
streaming. What she's looking at, it's video streaming.
Oh,
See, this is why there's a difference between the titles on ClearGov and the differences in the printout.
Yeah.
So,
Regina has a bunch of sub line
do.
items. So the
Actually, the narrative that she attached to it includes, it says iCompass/diligent, including a 3% annual increase.
Oh, that, yes,
16,228.
that is iCompass, yes, that is, that is what we have right now for our agendas, minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's that software.
that
yes.
replaces the $50,000 a year in paper and toner we used to spend.
Mhm.
Pretty much, yes,
Yeah.
it does. It really does, yes,
Figured it
because
out
we
once.
don't make packages anymore for
And mail them to
counselors and
everybody.
mail them,
And
yes.
still keeping it
I
like
have a question about the 10 Zoom licenses.
Yes.
Yeah,
Why
we charge
10?
Yeah.
Why not 30? Why not 5? How are
We could either go with 5 or 10. They only sell packets of 10 or licenses in packs of 10.
that's 10.
Excuse me,
post-
5.
Yeah.
So we had more than 5 because we have a staff person for each of the committees, commissions and boards and we had more than 5, so we had to go with 10. But we do use all the 10 now because A lot of the departments wanted to get on board, even if they don't have a staff person, they wanted to get on board, like nursing and some of the others. So we do have a full 10 right now.
Yeah. And with the hybrid meetings coming up, they're gonna need it.
Yep. So we have all of those dispersed out through the people. We also have a new item in there. And that is actually the meeting owl, as you can see right there. And the meeting owl is a spiffy little, we end up paying for an annual fee of $240 just for the HQ, which is the head, they call it HQ, headquarters kind of thing. If you notice it up on it, Kevin will vouch to that one. You start meetings there, you can record, you do everything of management of the owl. So we have two, we have.
Computer over here.
Yeah, I know, really.
Yeah, there's one in the meeting room.
Yeah,
too.
you have one here, one in the meeting room.
So it's really 2 times 240 here. I'm looking.
Correct.
There we go. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Let's see. I'm trying to see where,
Trainings, meetings, dues and subscriptions.
yes, that, I don't believe has changed.
Went down.
So, well, no, it didn't. So that's a question I have for
I have
finances,
0.
because the printout says -9%, but there's no change.
I have it going down by $100.
Oh,
The
it-
mayor's
yes, it-
final budget.
I believe it has gone down by
Yeah, it went from
$100, yes.
1110 to 1010.
Oh, yes, the SIM organization, I don't have the membership anymore. It was more geared towards companies and not necessarily municipalities, so I wasn't getting much out of it, so I said, well, there's $100 we can cut. I am trying to look for the, we covered it anyway, but yeah, I'm not sure quite where I put that. For the icon.
I think,
So,
that's on deck.
that should be it for me. And, oh, I see where, yeah, you're right, it was under video streaming,
Yeah.
yes,
I don't know why there's different titles, but
yeah, and it originally was just video streaming.
yeah,
And then we went to this whole, we went from IQM2 to yes, this product.
yeah, I'm just looking at the
Yes.
PDF that was sent out.
I see that we use, we use the iCompass actually streaming the meetings.
Yes, yes, live
Okay.
streaming and it's actually put up on YouTube that where people can watch it.
Thank you, Eugene.
Thank you
Okay,
very
you're
much.
welcome.
Okay. Next up
Juliet's
is
next.
Julie.
Schedule today?
CIP
Oh,
at
okay.
2:30.
Oh, boy.
We're 15 minutes late.
We shaved it this year. because
We're more than
That's right.
15
I
minutes.
know.
right?
Now we're behind.
We didn't know about 10 minutes.
If you want to do CIP, they're all here.
Hey, it's
I
good.
can do mine after.
Yes,
I'm
he is.
glad you asked me.
But it's
Everybody's
good.
here for the SIP right now.
Yep. Well,
up to
there's
you,
2
Bill.
other people out there.
And then, so 3 people are here for SIP.
Let's do them first, and then I'll flip flop. Sometimes you SIP too.
If you will, sure.
If you want to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Cold fields out there and.
So we're going to CapEx?
If you're in the back end, guys, you can go to, on the far left, there's a capital budget. It's the 2 wrenches, the 2 cross wrenches.
Wait a second.
Upper left.
Oh, here we
Yeah.
go, capital.
Upper left.
Top left, capital budgeting, click once and then.
And
you
then
can-
view dashboard on the
dashboard.
capital improvement plan, the FY23.
What am I
And then-
Oh, man, wait a minute.
I see capital budgeting, but I don't see, I see the wrenches you're talking about.
Click, what happens when you click on that?
I
I
just
don't
need
see
to
Come
know.
to a
wrenches.
My Project folder that's.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go all the way over to the
Jesus.
right.
I mean, I've got the
Can you
printout.
see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
So I can go by that.
I'm here.
Does this look, this is what mine looks like.
Oh, I don't have that.
So Ian, you have that.
Correct.
Okay.
Operational
Okay,
budgeting.
yeah,
charge.
you can.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's stuff I don't have.
All right.
Uh,
Maybe it doesn't matter.
Okay,
can
hold
click
on, I'm
on-
gonna add you. Yeah, you're
It
not.
says
in
I'm
here.
subscribed to this capital budgeting, but then there's nothing there.
Now, if I click on it, nothing's been posted yet.
And I get.
This is what happens when I.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Just in the- Should I hold on to this even different time? Like credit card?
T Ryan at
You're not able
ledgercity.org.
to-
Yes.
Apparently I don't know the phone number.
How's it
I
going?
entered it wrong twice, so then it wants some verification code that I don't have.
I got a question.
You want me to pick up some of the stuff in the town hall and then
Take some pictures of?
Sure.
Oh, I wanna look at phone number.
Probably Marcia's, but that was in my next.
No, not good.
No.
But it locked
Oh,
me
it's
out.
a
I'm in there
service.
too, because I don't think I can get into that one.
Well, you should be able to get in from the front end, right?
Verification.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah.
Are you going now? I don't know where I saw the name, but I was like.
The garages are for trucks.
So I was jealous of
Fire
that
apparatus.
garage,
Yeah.
first of all.
Anytime when you're the tour.
The, yeah, no, it's, and then down, I forget which way on retail it is, and then. other one, but,
Kevin,
What I wouldn't kill for a city sewer.
I just got it. Did you just do something for me, Marcia?
I did, I added, see if you
Oh.
can get in.
Do we have to log out, log in? or-
Nope.
Shouldn't have-
Oh, I see it. I see it.
Fresh. So you're saying view dashboard, Marcia?
Yep. Make sure you're on 23,
Would
Tim.
you like to share it?
Did you get it? Yeah, okay.
All right.
It's pretty cool. I didn't have to send a re-invitation.
Hmm.
Scott,
Where you going?
good, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
You sure?
Look at that.
Oh, this might be one of the old
A
ones.
lot of red.
You got new ones.
Whoa.
You get one or two every day.
Oh, Lord.
Wow, there's a heading called cost savings?
Yeah, don't get excited. There's
Yeah,
not too much in it.
Don't get excited.
I don't know. It's like big numbers to me. Oh, wait, no, sorry, I missed the decimal point.
2027 is.
Yeah.
78 million, so.
Oh, that red is what you're talking about?
It's, education.
There we go.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is, because we have several people here, specifically for the SIP, I'd like to talk about their requests first. I think I'll start with Vin Gugino, Chair of the Historic District Commission. Vin, if you want to come up, please. And this is related to ARPA funding requests. We had a conversation at Finance last week about possibly, and it might have been town council, but it was, no, it was Finance, it was Tim. We were talking about looking at the historic district for possible use of
Based on the last
ARPA
meeting, I
funds
was
for
at.
for projects, yeah.
Question, Marcia, if I click on, I'm on the capital thing and I click on historic districts, it shows me the fine. No, that's not it. Is there any way to view just what historic district commission is?
Yes,
requesting?
but
It looks like it's such a small part of the,
Yeah, in general.
Go down
view.
below.
If you go down to the bottom, you can pick on the actual
on each
item.
project, yeah.
I gotta, no, I definitely see that, but it doesn't. I can click on the projects, but can you sort by the department?
No, I don't think so. I mean, your
What's that?
funding thing shows them grouped by department.
This does.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we just have, on FairGov, we have to look at the individual projects.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so
Please feel free.
Chairman Godino sent us an email yesterday at our request. We had asked for what projects might we also be looking at, Nathan Lester House and the Sawmill. And he gave us a list of potential projects and prioritized them. So we have a sense not only of how important they are, but also cost, and they're not insignificant. So I sent the email to the, and I'm just sharing information. This has got to get into the somehow process. But I'm just gonna, for those of you that don't have the email, these are the projects for the sawmill. Replace the penstock and water tank. Best cast cost is 50 to 75,000. Remediate the mill building foundation and framing. Best guess 20 to 30. A security system 5,000, and repair shop foundation and sill 10 to 15. Those are just the high priority.
That's right. I was just curious. I got.
They have a number of other things, all under sawmill, also not insignificant that we'll take up under finance. I don't want to drag everybody through all this discussion today.
This is the email you just.
Yeah.
I missed that, sorry.
And then at the Lester House, repair and replace the west side of the exterior. The estimate is 15 to 20,000. Repair, plaster, and paint the interior of the museum. Contractor estimate 20,000. And then they have several more items under medium priority. So I just want to put it out there for the public and the folks in this room to know that we have asked for additional, we've asked the whole town for ideas for projects. And these are some of the ones that the district has come forward with, and I'm pleased to see that you prioritize them and gave us cost estimates. So if you want to add
Yeah, I
anything.
mean, Mother was able to put that together fairly quickly because we've been working on these, putting a little bit of capital aside each year. We have a grant from the state to do a survey, which is supposed to cover their architect, engineer approved by the state will help us prioritize these items, help us estimate. I mean, when does it become the point where we have to shut down? And you know, when is it unsafe? But we won't have that study done until probably the end of the summer, just when we expect that. So these are all things that some need more immediate attention than others. Some can wait a while and be addressed some point, you know, downstream.
So these, the email that you're referencing the email, and this is on top of the CapEx request. right?
Correct, correct. They're not in the CapEx yet. They're not on the ARPA funding list either.
Right.
So it's new information as of yesterday.
Would the Historic District Commission capital request be under a different department?
They might be under finance because I entered them. But there's no finance.
There's no finance
So,
either, because I don't see on ClearGov, I don't see, I just looked for repair and renovation of the up and down sawmill. I don't see it.
And there's a Lester House. here,
Yeah,
under
it was under there. Under general SIP request for 23, and then you
It's
scroll
called
down.
repair and renovation of water powered up down.
There
Yes.
we go.
Exactly, 45,000.
Up on the top, if you go to request, I think if you guys have request manager, you can, there's a search bar that you can type keywords in.
Where do you see that search?
Yours does, mine does not have the.
And
search
mine does
bar.
not. have a
Do I have
search bar.
different access than they do?
You're a super user.
If you go up on the top, where it says the dashboard, request manager.
Yeah. Yeah,
You don't have request manager?
yeah, we do.
I have
Oh, okay.
request manager,
But
but I don't
it
have, I
doesn't-
don't have the
oh,
search
no,
bar.
there it is.
Oh. Okay.
It just needed me to watch you do it.
Yeah.
Peter was like,
Now
okay,
we're-
we must change now.
Now it worked.
Because I did, I watched,
Like the
you
minutes
were on
system
request
wants to
manager,
have
it didn't
computer
look anything
support.
like what I had.
Oh, and then there's by department too.
Yeah.
I see that. I see that.
Request manager.
Oh, the tab.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
I just typed in saw.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
Look at that.
So it has been said, they have had these long-term projects in the capital plan for some time. The request today is that we use some ARPA funding to fund the projects as opposed to the longer-term plan that we've had. So I'll stop there. And if there are any questions, I'd just assume leave it at that and we'll discuss this. further.
The ARPA,
The ARPA.
right,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if you noticed on the cost spreadsheet, capital costs, there is an ARPA column, so
Yes.
that'll just be easy to switch around if you want to.
Yep.
Use ARPA for the
Okay.
flyover?
So thank you, Ben.
That's it?
Appreciate you
Okay,
coming.
yeah. All right, thanks.
Oh, we're gonna go over his projects, right?
You could make
Um,
a case for that.
I'm trying to kind of move us along and I thought we'd do that at.
Okay.
finance.
Oh,
we have
that's like
something
you
to
meant
do.
for the requests themselves.
No.
Okay.
Is there anything more that I have to do with this?
Unless you have questions for the chairman. No. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Vin, we'll see you soon, sir.
Steve.
Yes, how are you?
Good. How are you? So let's talk about emergency services.
Sure.
I'm trying to use ClearGov here.
Yeah. When you say emergency services, you're just talking about fire.
Fire apparatus replacement.
We got, yes, fire.
Got
Okay, so it
SCBA's.
says admin emergency service. That's what threw me.
That's what I said.
So I have
emergency services.
two under my immediate department head. It should be, as the mayor said,
AEDs.
fire apparatus and then
Yep.
AEDs.
The very first one on the top of the equipment and vehicle requests, and then about
Yeah.
midway down for AEDs.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you go down to,
Where,
yeah, it's
where
all-
are you? What tab are you in?
it's organized.
Request
by-
manager.
So what did you do in request manager?
So actually, I started in the dashboard.
Yep.
I scrolled down.
Uh-huh.
You started in dashboard?
Yep. I got to the list of SIP requests. And on the right side, there is a column of equipment or vehicle requests.
Oh,
And then I clicked on fire apparatus replacement.
right, but that doesn't include everything for the fire department.
No,
No,
Well,
doesn't.
that's what I'm trying to find, is a holistic list for everything, for the, because that's what we're talking about, right?
We're doing apparatus.
No, we're
replacement?
just doing AED right now. The fire companies come in separately.
Oh, so we'll do fire apparatus under fire company.
Oh,
I mean, under Steve's thing, there is the whole apparatus replacement plan is attached in there under
Yeah.
supplemental attachment, so you can see that.
all right.
You can pull that up.
Hammer.
I have paper copies.
Sure.
Yep.
I like paper. Yeah.
All back to the Excel spreadsheet.
I'd be all for putting money back in the budget. to do paper.
Thank you.
Me too. Yes.
It disorients me.
Oh, okay, this is the one you've said.
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
Oh, look at that.
See everything else.
So our request was 315,769, I believe, I should say, in ClearGov. That brings our balance up. There is on the expenditure side of things, and I just got the spec from Chief Man last night, actually, for that dollar amount. Under the R14 stuff, so that'll eventually be coming forward in order to kick that off and then search for a tanker, and then we took money this year for Kills Fred's rescue. out, so. I noted in my narrative, I included a little bit more increase. If you look up at the top where it says FY23 and it's highlighted in pink, we had a 5.5% increase to the reserve. That was what we were going with. We changed that a little bit this year, and I mentioned to the mayor when we were meeting, him, there's been like a 12% increase in fire truck costs this year due to supply chain issues, prices of steel. Production is way down, like half of the amount of fire trucks that they used to be able to crank out, just because of workforce issues as well, like COVID. So that resulted in basically a 12% increase in vehicles to us. So the number that I have is actually a 10% increase, not a 5.5% increase, because we're trying to be somewhat conscientious of those increases. And I fear that if we don't attempt to keep pace with it, then we're going to be, underwater here in a couple of years when this plan plays out. So I tried to kind of split the difference, and 12.5% on a SIP request is pretty substantial, I thought. But with explanation, I think it makes a little bit of sense.
Are there any grants that we could consider applying for any of this state?
We could probably explore assistance firefighters for vehicles. I'd have to review what their priorities are, because in the latest thing that I watched, the latest webinar, they basically said that unless your thing is high priority with the federal government, you're not going to pay for it. This is don't put in votes, don't put in for this, that, and the other. They're marked medium and low priority. There's not going to be any money left for those. So we have to evaluate. That grant cycle won't open until December, January, February next year. So that's certainly something to explore.
And maybe for specific pieces.
Yeah, it would be for a specific piece of equipment at that point.
So right now, we're funding the whole thing through.
And to a point, that could be something we use, say, for instance, for Ledyard's R13 engine.
Yeah.
Coming up in fiscal year 25, and that's something that we start looking at now in order to have that shovel ready and do that, maybe next year, or the year after, to offset that 882, 119 that's in there.
Yep.
I'm not aware of anybody locally getting vehicles, but that's certainly something to explore.
I recall reading it, and I can't remember any of the specific details, but I remember reading about a fire company buying a vehicle, getting grant money for it, and I thought,
well, now's a good time to look at it,
Yeah,
because
right.
if they need to modify what they're gonna get to make it more palatable for the grant,
yeah,
that's a good discussion to have, and that may, alter things a little bit, but in terms of if we can get a 5% match on a vehicle, that's huge.
Yeah.
Substantial savings.
so,
Go ahead. No, all you.
so the total balance right now is just over $1 million in the fund, in the reserve fund.
It should be in the 800 range, and then when we add the 315, that'll be.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is a question for you or the finance, but the capital cost is 315,769. But then the funding source budget is only 302. Is that because you're getting grants to offset it, or?
Not in the spreadsheet.
On ClearGov, that's what I'm saying. Well, that was a general question I had on the capital stuff, because the budget didn't match the funding source. So,
Yeah, so they put in where they think it should come from.
yeah,
But then when the mayor does the cost analysis, he puts whatever he can in the anything other than taxpayer column first,
yeah.
and then what's remaining goes in. So we have certain things like you'll find with Steve Maslin's budget, we take some out of contingency for, I think it's
But I
large
should see
trucks.
that in here. I mean,
You won't see that in what they enter, no. That's why we have a separate cost.
No, I'm kind of confused too, but
So I have budget of 315, funding and funding source only providing 302. So where's the 13 coming from? The remaining 13.
Where are you seeing the 302? Is it in ClearGov?
Yeah. It's showing under taxes. So taxes are
says
taking up
taxes is
302,851.
but it shows that taxes are 100%.
Right.
So I can't.
Yeah, I don't know. That was from when it was entered.
Okay.
Maybe Steve entered a cost savings somewhere. I don't know.
Steve didn't enter a cost savings. He doesn't have any cost savings, sure.
I hear him signing up for it. Yeah.
But I think in the spreadsheet, it should say the full amount.
It does.
313, yeah,
313,
313.
769.
The 302 may have been the original. Is there a chance that could have been the original number from last year when we put it in, and we did the 5 or 7 years out?
Could be.
Because that would
Yeah.
strike me as about the difference in the
Yeah.
increase with that percentage going from 5.5% to 10 would be right around 13,000.
So, yeah, I mean, that's not for you specifically. That's a general comment I have with this whole CapEx spreadsheet, because when I look at it, total $6.1 million requested, and then the funding is under that by about $12,000. So you.
Now we found the anomaly.
So, anyway, with respect to you, I just want to say I really appreciate, I've appreciated this spreadsheet from day one, because it's nice, it's easy and clear to read, and I like
True.
seeing that you have a plan all the way out through FY 41.
The nice thing is that, you know, credit where credit's due. Rush Shaw started this when he was in the AES when he first started. So there's a bunch of columns that I just hide as the years move, and that info's all there. So we can actually expand those out and look at the history of this over, I don't know, Russell's here, what, maybe 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Or two. So you've got about 12 years of data that's in there, and this gets updated, and then it allows me to, when the fire chiefs go, hey, I want to replace this on this year, we can play with it a little bit and forecast what's going to happen. Because as you know, a drop in the pond now is a tidal wave down the road in terms of funding. So we're trying to be very conscientious of
We might
that.
have to go back.
Yeah,
You know, Public Works does the same stuff with their vehicles as well. So it really helps us. be able to
Login number?
evaluate our costs and
You might have,
rising.
I might have to go
And-
back in.
And as it doesn't relate to this year's request, but you know, because you give us so much information, it presents questions, you know, and really it's just more comment. I think I may have mentioned this to you a long time ago when we first saw this, but because I can see that, you know, in the next 10 years, we're gonna see what amounts to almost a roughly $200,000 increase in what I assume would be your capital request. It's always appreciated to look at ways to maybe amortize some of that over the next few 10 years instead of seeing a big jump.
And we had talked at one point, the mayor was maybe finance or something, and there still are those options that if we chose, we could lease a vehicle
Oh, I see.
over a fixed cost, and that would be, you know, a payment. Usually they're 10 years. For fire trucks, so that basically you buy the vehicle now and you pay on that for the next 10 years, and you leave some money at the bank. It's an option, you know.
Yeah, we did a lease to own on the front loader in Public Works a while ago. I don't know if you remember that. And that was just like a 3 or 4 year term. It was short, but you know, we owned it at the end of 4 years.
There's agencies it works for, like vacation in Myrtle Beach years ago, and that was one thing, they had 7 or 8 fire engines, and they were all the same year, they were all the same manufacturer. They literally Ferrera or whoever, okay, we want 7 pumpers this year, and they all came in, they leased them, they had a fixed payment over the life of the vehicle, and everything was set up the same. That worked well for that agency. It worked as well for us. And we're certainly not in the business of replacing fleets that often. But
Right. I mean, the only reason I mentioned that is because your reserve balance for the start of every fiscal year, it's not a consistent amount.
Yep.
And so I would have thought that we would, obviously, you can't predict emergency expenses, right? That might happen with equipment, just like you're telling us right now with the Green Goblin, right? But it would be, I would have expected to see more of a consistent number.
Yeah.
Like I look at, you know, and we got plenty of years to handle this, so
Yeah.
please take this with a grain of salt. But FY 37 and FY 38, you look at a starting balance of 2.5 to 3 million, and I see, okay, yep, you're expecting a big expense for a new ladder truck, right? But you still got over $1 million left after that. So is that the amount we're going for? Or is it, you know,
well, what you're not seeing is that as it plays out into the fiscal year 48-9, the price of these engines that we bought, like R11.
Yeah.
You know, you can see that was initially 560. You look over and there's a 1.18
correct
number there. Well, that's gonna want to get replaced in fiscal year 53, and everything's going exponentially with that. So
you're
trying to have seed money to be able to afford what's going to go on in a couple.
So you're
of years.
anticipating the cost increases, and that's why it's okay. All right.
So is it possible to lease a vehicle over a period of the lease period in the home for less than just having a reserve fund, setting aside money every year. I mean, leasing companies have to make money somehow.
Right, exactly.
So
Yeah, and I think when we did the one with the Caterpillar front loader, it was like, I'm gonna say 3.5% or something like that is what they made annually for 4 years.
So the leasing business exists because companies can write off a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It's not shown as an asset. They are willing to pay the interest on it through the lease because they show no asset on the books, therefore the return on investment is higher. So it looks
Right.
good at, to the stock market and investors, but the actual cost of owning that machine, if you lease it versus just go out and buy it with cash that you save, is higher to lease. So towns don't get to say, hey, I got a better return on investment.
Right.
We pay more, in my opinion, we pay more by leasing. Because somebody's got to make money. That company has to make money.
Yeah.
It's a quick way to get equipment if you don't have money.
Yeah.
But other than that,
And you have the option, I don't know that it would be viable, but there's towns that literally, they figure out what they want to buy for fire trucks, they go out and bond for it. I don't know that we'll be borrowing money to, we've been able to set
Same
it
thing,
aside, so
yeah.
we're on a
Right,
positive.
yeah.
The bonding puts you in a negative.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, Norwich did that not too long ago, like 15 or 20 million dollars at 4% for 20 years.
Yeah.
So as long as you keep those fire trucks for 20 years, 4% is probably not the end of the world. If they last for 12 or 15 years, you got a problem because you're paying for 20.
Right.
And we've had the motor, we had to put in 11, we had some other major expenses, the frame rail 27. And again, the plan has always been to combine the rescue and engine, so you're actually gonna be dropping a vehicle off of this at this point, so that's one way we've been able to kind of control costs. Our apparatus available to the firefighters starts to come up thin as we do that.
I think this is one of the best things about ledger finance, is the way that you set money aside every year. And we do it at Public Works, we do it with emergency vehicles, and we've also learned when we don't put money into the capital reserve or spend it on the roads the way we should, we end up paying later.
Yeah, and you pay more later. And the other nice thing is it's nice to be able to, on a management side of things, look at. Let's pick on Ledger, not because I'm picking on Ledger, but there's a number in there. You go out and work on your spec and here's your number that you need to come in at. So rather than, hey, go work on the spec and all of a sudden it comes in and their number's 200,000 more than what we're telling them, and that forces them to make some real critical decisions on what needs versus wants versus, I don't want to say the word toys, but you get where I'm going with that. as far
I
as-
would go with desirements versus requirements.
Yeah, there's basic needs and then there's, okay, it would be nice to have, and then there's, okay, let's try it. And, we can kind of prioritize all those things, and a lot of times the priority one stuff is what we buy, and the twos and threes, we don't have any fun.
So basically, we're looking for to set aside about 315,000 this year to the capital reserve for apparatus. All right, let's look at AEDs. Looking to set aside 7,000 for, so those are automated external defibrillators. So we're looking to set aside 7,000.
Essentially, that fund was created because those items that are in the box out back here, we have the problem. At some point, they're gonna have an end of service life. Currently, we use that fund to be able to purchase new pads for them, new batteries for them, and at some point, they're gonna have to get replaced because they'll have an end of service, and that's the seed money to be able to go ahead and take care of that. We have it's 20 defibrillators.
That's what I was thinking.
That number,
Did they come as a grant originally?
I don't believe so.
I thought they did. I thought we got those.
That's what I recall.
It wasn't even a grant. I think
We just got it.
we just got it.
Yeah.
So is that like I'm looking at ClearGov and it has $7,000 out for the next few years. Is that just a continuing?
That's just a continuing thing
It's
to be able to have
set
that.
money aside every year and then go buy more.
And there's.
Or replace, because you got to replace.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. by-
So there's one at Public Works, there's one in every fire apparatus. One in town hall, one here. The PD
No,
has
they
4 or
spend it
5
every year.
assigned to
Buy
them. The
new
schools all have them.
Yeah.
So I go around like quarterly and do inspections. on
They sell
them,
it.
and I need to, keep an eye on the expiration dates of the pads, make sure I have cash that we have, so we can take care of replenishing.
How many defibrillators does $7,000 buy?
Probably two right there, 2 to 3, depends on what we can get for pricing.
And this is. So that we buy 2 to 3 every year and they get replaced every year,
No.
or there's,
No, this is.
so how many do we have?
These are pads
I
and
just said we have
batteries.
about 28 towns.
I had missed that,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, we have about 28 towns. So
All right,
we're
so
we're
they're-
building a nest egg.
It's on a
to be able to
retirement
produce.
schedule, basically.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they're all coming due right at the same time, but they're in service, they're functioning fine, so we're just kind of letting that can get down the road.
Questions for Steve? Thank you very much.
Good work. Is that with fire companies or not?
Yeah,
It's up to you on whether you want to do it.
How we go through the sale.
Well, so when the fire companies are here, I think they want to be part of that
I
conversation.
think you would want to have the chiefs, here, so I think we'll be. So, I would say yourself.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
See you guys. Monday.
Thank you.
Monday. Steve?
Actually, okay.
Oh, yeah, Regina's still here for MIS.
I can never see who's behind.
I just have one item.
What's the name of your item? So I can do our request manager here.
Let's see.
Added ClearGov
The-
modules.
No, that's from the ARPA, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, it still shows in this list.
Oh, okay.
yeah, the ARPA items are shown in the list.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Computer and server replacements.
Yes, I'm doing server replacements. That is the reserve fund. And actually, it's used up almost every year because we replace any laptops that we have, any PCs that we have. We're usually on we're trying to get to a 5-year schedule with PCs. Laptops probably a little bit longer, but we also replace servers out of there, and servers are certainly more expensive. So we usually replace like 1 or 2, maybe if we're lucky, servers a year. We've also added last year 10,000. It used to be 300,000. I wish it was it was 30,000, and that actually just took care of, town hall and some of the other places that we deal with. But we added 10,000 in there for the LPD because, as you know, the police department it's 5 years ago that we actually had that new building and we had new equipment in there. What's happening is it's aging and they're having problems with their PCs. So we added 10,000 extra last year so that we could get them back into a 5-year rotation. We didn't have them on a rotation at all at one point. So we have, I don't know if you can see it, but we do have probably about, I don't know, maybe 21,000 in there right now. The only reason that it's so high is because we really haven't been able to replace much of anything because we can't get processors. So we have on order 5 processors for 5 PCs for the the police department, but we have all the other equipment for them, but we just don't have the processors, so they're waiting.
So the 40 grand that you would be requesting for 23 would be going on top of that, even though that money is spent, you're saying, the 23?
It's not spent yet because we don't pay until we get our,
No,
Yeah,
I
it's
get
earmarked.
that, it's earmarked,
Yeah.
but it was a better way of saying it.
yes, it is.
So
earmarked.
you've already got that 23 earmarked
Yes.
for something that is just hasn't come in yet.
Yes.
Gotcha.
But that's for this year.
Correct.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
need a new file server that's gonna run us about 10,000, but I can't get it in,
Right.
because nobody has that kind of supply like that. So it will pretty much be spent, and the 40,000 is definitely an ongoing thing,
Yeah, I see that.
yeah.
So-
It's not like we're gonna end up with, at the end of 2 years, 80,000, so it'll get spent within the next year.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I always worry about stuff like that. So like, so for example, and I'm not saying this is something that, but, Steve has this
Exactly.
spreadsheet, right? And he
Yeah.
can show us why he's requesting a certain amount of
Right.
money and where it's going.
Yeah.
And so for the capital request, yeah, of course, if we give you 40, you're gonna spend 40, right? I mean, otherwise you won't get it next
Right.
year.
We
and so-
have, we do have a rotation list of PCs that
Yeah.
we rotate through.
Okay,
Because we have a good amount of PCs and laptops, in town hall and, that type of thing. So basically, we do have a 5-year or so rotation within.
so the 40 number is based on has some fidelity behind it.
It
In
does.
terms of
Yep.
what your average,
Yes, and the
Cost
same
would be-
with servers.
okay,
Right now, our file server is 10 years old. And that is our,
that's the $10,000.
Yeah.
If we can get it in,
if we can get it in,
okay.
yes. So that is the only reason the 40,000 and
Yeah.
20 of it's still sitting there.
Right, but that's earmarked for stuff,
Mhm.
so, yeah.
It sure is, yeah. So that's it for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
I've got my general budget later, I mean, Scott's. But.
Scott.
I
We'll try
might
and
let you read.
make this painless. I can just read off my Excel sheet. I didn't make copies for everybody, but I will take note of that for next week. We have 4 projects in for this year. One's roof replacements. It's at $56,760. That includes the Judge Crandall Fieldhouse. A lot of roofs have blonders. I believe it's
Well, I'm sorry,
Scott, hang on.
where are we looking? What's,
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
yeah, I only see one on this printout. $5,000 basketball and tennis courts.
So
That's on
That's
on the mayor's
just the
budget.
ongoing one.
I think that's separated by type of request.
So the 5,000 is part of a 5-year project, like,
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to find a list of
Yeah.
all of your requests and I only see one under actual Parks and Rec, so.
Roof
On the
replacements.
spreadsheet, there's 5, or 4.
for
I see
Yeah.
several. I see,
should be roofs, playground upgrades,
Yeah.
little lights and.
I see,
tennis
yeah.
basketballs.
so Tim, I went back
I'm just gonna use
into
this.
the SIP dashboard.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I scrolled down to the requests included in period list.
yeah. Yeah,
And if you look under department,
right,
if, it would be great if that column was clickable and could
Sortable.
sort, right? But they are there.
Yeah.
What he's, yeah. So I see you're talking about roof replacements, you're talking about middle school practice field,
Yep, for new lights.
Colonel Ledyard Park,
yeah.
okay.
Playground upgrades.
Oh, nice little narrative here.
There's a lot of pictures too.
What do you see, what are you looking at?
Oh, so click on roof replacements?
I'm under request manager. I
Yeah.
just typed in roof.
Yeah, if you look at the roof replacement, you can see pictures and everything of what's in
Yeah.
there.
You'll see that some of them clearly need to be replaced. There's one, you can see the nails sticking
I
out.
just needs power
Yeah.
washing.
Nails sticking out.
So we're gonna do them all at the same time and we get a little bit of a deal because doing it in bulk. Actually, we're hoping that we might be able to do 2 of the smaller sheds with volunteers because they're just like sheds you get at Home Depot and we just buy the supplies. But we're looking for somebody that knows what they're doing and will volunteer their time.
So you're doing these 8 roofs for 56?
Is it 8? So I have
58,
one at
57.
Crandall, there's a pavilion at Blonders, a garage at Blonders, 2 sheds at Blonders, there's the Highland Lake Pavilion, and then there's a small barbecue overhang there as well. Actually, I might have left a barbecue overhang at Blonders.
But these are
It's
the 8
in there.
projects getting done for the 57?
Yes, yeah. And that includes 10% contingency.
I see your basis of estimate, it just says proposals received, so you have somebody in mind that you're.
Yeah, I got 2 quotes. They should be attached.
Where do you see
We would have to go out to
Look at
bid
that.
because that's over, well over the 15,000.
If I had gotten that training, it would have been.
Mhm. You're getting it right now.
Hands on, man.
On the fly.
Ooh.
He's gonna get a lot
Yeah,
of
you see the
mileage out of
estimates?
that.
Yeah, good.
We'll have Kevin do this.
Yeah,
for you.
yeah,
very
He's like
visual
cooking along
presentation.
right here.
AM,
You.
PM
Oh,
is,
yeah, that's-
seems like they're doing the bulk of your.
What they got in.
So the other one, it's all, I think one's just a quote, a single quote. AM, PM gave me 3 separate. He gave it per location.
All right.
And the only thing is, the second quote, he didn't include the garage at Blonders. So I went with AM, PM being a little higher because the other quote didn't include one of the locations. One of the.
Oh, you
roofs.
mean for the number that?
For the number I used,
Are you
yeah.
gonna go back to VP and get them to add that back in?
Well, we'd have to go out to bid
Yeah,
regardless
anyway.
because of price.
Yeah.
Ready for the next one?
Unrelated to this, just at Erickson Park, there's the. I'm not even sure. what to
It's
call
a
it, the
temporary
tent.
pavilion.
Yeah, temporary pavilion.
Mhm.
Does that ever get replaced?
Actually, that's in this year's capital.
Okay.
Waiting to hear back to get an updated quote. It's just getting a new
For 22
canopy.
even.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the funds are already there, so. That and a new stone dust walking path, so.
Nice.
Next one we have is playground upgrades. It's pretty self-explanatory. We need more wood chips. I became a playground safety inspector. You're supposed to have 9 inches of non-compacted wood fiber to meet the 10-foot fall height for the equipment. We are well below that in all of our playscapes. Plus, it's hard to rake under, where you have concrete to keep it at the proper depth. So it's a safety issue. We're also looking at some ADA rubber matting, which has multiple purposes. It allows accessibility, but it also, you put it under swings and slides that prevents wear, which then cuts down on our maintenance time and allows the surface to last a little longer before you have to put more wood chips under there.
These are engineered wood chips though, right?
Yes, so for playgrounds, you have to have a very specific,
Right.
they give you a certificate that has been tested to ASTM standards.
No splintering.
We cannot
Right
use
on the
what,
slide.
Public Works mulches from the trees. It would save a lot of money, but someone could definitely use that to their advantage if they got hurt. Any questions on that? And then next one is middle school practice lights. I think there's a picture. We have 6 poles, 2 of them do not work. One of them, the lights blew down in a windstorm, and all those crossbars are made of wood. The reason why that one blew down is because it is rotted out, which means the other 5 are most likely also rotted out. So while we're going to be up there, we're just going to replace them with LED lights. That'll also be more energy efficient, brighter. Won't stress the electrical system out. We won't be replacing breakers. So that'll also cut down some of our electrical costs as well, and maintenance costs for those, the breaker boards.
When you say there's one additional light fixture that isn't working for unknown reasons,
They didn't
if
want
it's
to,
unknown, do we expect the cost?
they included if it was a wiring issue in the
So
quote.
worst case scenario is this cost?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank
So if it's just the bulbs out,
Yeah.
our cost might go down a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
because they wouldn't have to do any rewiring. So they took that, and that's all under a state contract, so we actually wouldn't have to go out to bid.
So, speaking of state contracts, it's come up with Public Works too, when we do work on town buildings. Read articles recently in the paper about state contracts. I think it would be good for us all to go out and get bids, whether or not the state says, use our contractor. We have found savings by doing that in the past. Would you agree?
At times, you gotta weigh the complexity of
Right,
what you're dealing
right.
with and the administrative costs associated with
Right.
going after those services.
Yeah.
There can be value gained depending on the nature of what you're doing.
I think it's good to look at it with just clear eyes.
But we've got also a range of
It's actually,
vehicles to go through, not just the state of Connecticut.
Yeah.
You've got other range of options options that we have used and leveraged.
'Cause I don't think that actually might not be state, it might be what CCRM or if that was a better one. So
CRPC.
technically, I think it's a contract with like the state of Kansas City, but it was
Yeah,
cheaper than the
I was thinking
state.
more of the projects we did in this building.
That's
Then we had
nice,
those
isn't it?
contractors come in.
Oh, that was, it was through.
They had a formula that come in.
Right, yeah. We haven't used that.
Oh, good.
Since,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
What's the next project you're gonna go over? Just wanna make sure I can get it up here. so.
That's the tennis court, that's just an ongoing, so
Tennis courts.
keep been delayed, so it will be this spring now. We're getting pickleball lines added to the tennis court. And then they're doing crack filling, and then that'll be crack filling again for next year. It'll maintain the life of our court that was installed a few years back. It's one of the factors living in New England, freezing in the winter, plus being mostly ledge, the ground moves around a little bit and causes cracks in the court surfacing.
Jim, I figured out how you can do it by department.
Yay.
Customized columns, and there's a department
In the
choice.
SIP.
Yeah,
Wait, really?
Oh, yeah, see, select additional info. Oh, add custom column? Yeah.
yes.
Wait, where?
Sorry. Nothing,
Uh,
nothing to kill the flow, like,
Funding source.
Those flow.
And so that's it for me.
Those flow.
As you just learned.
okay, so back up. I know I do that, mine isn't either, but
Where are you in request manager? Or
No.
No. At the dashboard.
Oh,
dashboard? Okay.
Um,
Oh, department, all departments?
no, go back, go to
Oh,
the,
capital requests by department?
no, there's one that you can actually click on. Okay, sorry.
I'm done. Actually, so.
I'm in the,
He wants to go.
yeah, I am in request manager, and then there's,
Customized columns.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And then what?
then you can go to, so when you get customized
Oh.
columns, make sure that department, you'll get a list of columns, and
I only get capital cost, cost savings and funding sources, my choices.
Yeah, make it additional info to the department.
you see that in your list?
Yeah.
Yeah, so click on that, and then save at the bottom.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh,
So click on department.
That's it.
you have to move, you have
It's
to
right
scroll,
here.
if you scroll over,
But it's
If you-
selected.
Tim, if you scroll on the bottom, if you scroll over to the right,
Yeah.
you can sort by department.
Click on that little wine glass. I'm sure that's not what it is. but
Right,
that's
it's right
what
in
I
the, in
see.
the search bar, it's right, park direct.
So if you scroll over.
Oh,
get
it's
the
part
column.
right here.
Yeah, so just put like park.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, thank you.
So what, it's like, it thinks I.
Look at that.
Okay.
Now that you're
So I'm
done.
scrolling over.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you're ready for Parks and or for
Yeah,
Public
now
Works.
Public Works.
And then you can type in the department.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, I'm sorry.
And you can
Look
get
at
rid
that.
of any extraneous columns you want by clicking on those three lines.
Playscape replacement.
Oh, we're doing ARPA too.
So there are ARPA projects that are also in this because they were added to the SIP.
Correct.
But those
Now that I'm
that
understanding this,
department
I
is
have one as
mayor.
well. It's like the same thing where you can search any column and then jump over to other columns and search by this.
Yes.
So I mean, you could really get
All right.
multiple column searches.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to hear this.
That's in the ARPA, not in the.
I'm learning too, but Marshall was.
I mean, I can
learning
talk about it.
ADJOURNMENT training.
Or unless you want to do that like beside it.
I do wonder about, it does bother my eyes to look at the screen too long.
You
and
might be
I
too.
have,
Yeah, I'm starting to
my
go
good
bald
glasses.
for my-
have
Oh,
really
I thought you meant your
filtered
glasses.
and,
Oh, no.
But I get
While you're
disoriented.
here,
It's not-
unrelated to
it's
this,
like
I
I
just
still
wanted
prefer
to
to
say
read a hard copy
what a
book.
great day camp
You
program.
know, I have.
You
a
guys
Kindle.
run.
Thank you.
My kids participated in it last year, and they're gonna be doing it this year. We actually asked to go to it over New England Science Sailing, which they've done before.
Wow, that means a lot, because I've worked with Dex before and
Yeah.
my previous
And
job.
and a couple of other programs.
I
And
just- I
one
don't
of
feel like
them
that
went
same
to an
sense
away
of
camp.
space
like
and
overnight camp.
place when
Said,
I'm
no, I'd rather go to blended day
doing it
camp.
digitally. I
Perfect.
tried to
Well,
learn.
it'll be even more fun because this year we should be having field trips again. We didn't do it because of COVID.
I
No,
tried
we'll
to
have that
find a
trip.
message
So I appreciate you
from
doing that.
online,
Thank you.
And I thought that would cure.
It's always good to hear good
of
reviews.
reading
Yeah.
Books, but in some ways it cemented it. Like, no, I
You guys have
really need this.
anything else for me?
No, I
My
did.
wife loves her. She has a
Thank you.
note-
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
it's the-
Yeah, I'm glad I could
I
use
gotta
a-
do my
a
whole
training
one.
down here.
Yeah, I think they
That's
got it
why
figured
I
out
forgot.
now.
Really?
I have to replace it for her every 2 years because she's that much.
Wow.
All right,
I think we
I'll
did
try
it.
and buy something off Amazon next, maybe do it and see if it gets denied.
Do it well before I
But,
will.
I mean, my wife.
I don't want to be charged with a field trip.
Yeah.
Like, and read a
The
whole,
day of.
sit down for 2 hours and read a whole like, novel.
Yep, great.
It's super fast reader.
I didn't print anything out. It should all be accessible online.
It is, but we'll see if we can find it.
I mean, I
Where are
have
we
hard
going?
copies.
I think we're going back to the regular.
No,
Going to the operating budget.
No.
We're here for SIP.
SIP, so.
Yeah, no,
That's
yeah, we're
kind of-
doing, wait,
He's just going
We
because
I'm gonna do
everybody's
my
doing
SIP
SIP.
part
We
and
haven't
then
done
Juliet
mine.
will do her SIP and her operating, then I'll come back for my operating.
All right.
You guys have dinner plans?
yep.
A P and Z meeting does occur tonight.
Oh,
so I
Juliet's
gotta
up
get home.
to
Yeah, thanks.
2:15, thank you for being here ahead of time.
I
Okay.
saw that and I was like, why is there 15-minute windows for each person?
Because last year we flew through it and we had
Yeah.
so much time. We were actually
Oh.
calling people.
Yeah,
In
we'd
early,
actually
like, we
cut it
were-
down. It was a half hour
Yeah.
per person and we found we were
Every
just.
single one.
Yeah.
Last year, we didn't have
So,
clear
We did, I don't
training
think,
going on.
I don't think you
That's
did,
true.
but I don't think you did the SIP this way last year either.
No,
No,
No.
no.
okay,
We did not spend time on
No.
no.
All right, so we're
So-
in Public Works.
Public Works,
Okay.
All right, you can just tell me which project I got on.
Colonel Ledyard Highway, multi-use pathway.
Oh, okay, that has been put in, it's an ongoing project. And it's a capital, but it's
I didn't bring the
entirely
paper,
grant
but you
funded.
use it. I didn't.
through the LASIK program.
Right,
So we're just carrying it as obviously a project that we're managing. And it looks like it's going to be a possible construction this year, right? Late this year? Is it?
Construction was
Hmm?
22 or 23? I guess 22.
I think it was this year. It-
Summer or fall or 23. or something.
Yeah, but
Or
what,
22.
what kind of complicated it was the sewer line, which is going to be done concurrently. I think we bid concurrently so that maybe a single contractor gets both of them and can coordinate all of that work.
Right, DOT's been back and forth, back and forth, back. and
Yeah,
forth,
it's,
so still not, we still don't have all of the comments sort of through, so it's that
So,
was an ambitious time schedule.
yeah, 2022 might be ambitious. It really, the way these types of things go. So anyway, that's just there for tracking purposes. There's not if there's funding shown, it's all grant funding, so no on budget contribution. Other than the operational side of things to maintain that beast in the wintertime. So that's on the operating budget though. But it does reflect in the capital equipment costs that may relate to the type of unit we have to get to do that kind of maintenance. That will not be subject to the ordinance requirements where adjacent owners are required to clear it like a normal sidewalk. So that's going to be in our infrastructure to maintain.
Wondered about that.
Wait,
I mean-
say
But,
that again?
because it's on a pathway to a school.
Yeah,
The ordinance says that
well-
unless it's on a pathway to a school.
But it
You-
does- it does
you
go to
have-
school.
that's
Well-
why, Like Gallup-Bill and,
Oh,
yeah.
so in other words, the town for some like high traffic sidewalks, the town can't depend on private property owners to clear the sidewalk.
And that's not exactly
That's
it.
not how the ordinance is written, is that if the sidewalk's in front of your property, unless they're an access for students walking to a school, i.e. Gallup-Bill and Town Farm Road,
Right?
the town clears those sidewalks because the kids walk to school.
Right.
This is a
In this
good
case here, because it's a walking.
Yeah, this
path
is not
between the
exactly a normal
school,
sidewalk.
It's kind of weird, but it's a sidewalk at the path.
This is a bike way, not, this is, doesn't fall, I don't think, under the ordinance in that sense anyway. So anyway, that's an ancillary cost that when you put in a capital request, you identify because it's going to incur additional operational assets to maintain. So that's that one.
I was just going down in order
Oh, that's
that we're
fine.
seeing it, but is that okay?
That's okay.
All right, so Sandy Hollow is next.
Yeah, that's been in there for years. And I just quadrupled the cost because I understand there was an objection to metal ribbon guide rails. I said, okay, I'll give you wood.
Who objected?
I thought that was an ARPA thing.
Yeah, that was somebody, there was a comment that was made.
I didn't object, but I asked because it's a scenic road.
Yeah.
No, it is
I
not.
agree.
It is not designated as a scenic road.
No, no, no.
Come on,
But it
how
looks
could it not
scenic.
be?
It looks scenic.
Do
She's saying
we
it
want-
is a scenic road.
I understand his
With a
quibble.
small s.
I do understand his quibble. I wasn't saying it's a designated scenic road, but okay, to
I
their
didn't
point,
hear you
it's
say
not a
designated.
designated.
Kevin's just picking on it.
Yes,
So-
that's, well, he's not, he's being.
334.
I think it would be a crying shame, but I understand nobody wants to spend quadruple the cost on that guardrail.
Well, no one's wanted to spend a quarter of the cost either.
Well, that was before ARPA.
So I don't know if this is going to get any traction, but I put it there and others are saying no. So at least I did what I feel I have to do.
Why didn't we?
No,
consider
give me
this
that back for a
ARPA?
flyover. You can't have them.
So the others might be me. I made the suggestion that this road is scenic in appearance. I think we
Pretty.
would have a huge taxpayer complaint session if we replace those post and cable guardrails with ribbons.
Which are so scenic as they are.
Yeah, well,
There's something to look at anyway.
I would tell them the price though.
and also, we've had one vehicle go in the reservoir. It's
been a while.
In at least the last 10 years, if not longer. And it's Groton Utilities that is requesting us to replace those guardrails. Yes, they have to be replaced anyway because it's running through a lake. But we're thinking that because it's a reservoir, that perhaps Groton Utilities could help pay for it, and they really don't want to. So that, there it sits, year after year. So
You told them the cost of the pretty guardrail?
Doesn't Groton Utilities get a benefit out of,
Cars not going into their.
yeah,
A remote benefit.
Yeah.
maybe you
Make a
could
deal
say
with them,
we'll
say
pay
we
for
won't
the
go
whole
across it
guardrail
in
if you let
Tri-Town
us have the
Trail, if you put up
Tri-Town
the
Trail.
guardrail.
there you go.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
But in fairness to them, I mean, it's a road that we have to maintain regardless of whether it's a reservoir or not. But
I don't have an updated metal ribbon estimate either because I don't trust the one from last year. with
Yeah, it was
everything
what,
else
2
either.
1/4 or something?
Isn't
Yeah.
that the amount that's in your SIPA?
No, I put
No.
$1 million in there for the wood.
Jesus.
Crash rated wood,
Yeah.
Merritt Parkway guide rail. Nice
Nice.
pictures are in my
Yeah,
presentation.
Yeah.
Oh, he put
It's
pictures in?
beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Pictures
Yeah.
attached.
The merit is nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you really went, okay, you went for it.
That wasn't a real selling point. It just,
But even then, I look at like,
All right.
people would complain about that because
Why
they
didn't
think
we
that
consider
those
the
wood rails.
I thought we
it's on the
talked
list, we
about it.
considered it.
No, we
Yeah.
zeroed out.
But to be crash rated, they would have to.
But we can revisit.
I
It's
probably
just
had
my
it.
opinion.
I mean, there are other ways. I don't know if they still install the, the self-rusting round
Sure.
guide rails.
Yeah, they do.
We use those on
We call
Rose
that-
Hill Road, which is a
That's a
scenic.
patina.
Okay, well, don't use that word, you're right, that doesn't sound good, but we use those on Rose Hill Road specifically because it's a designated scenic road, so.
How do they compare?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, oxidizing guide rails.
Yeah, but how do they compare to Seal River cost?
Not, they're somewhat more, I don't think nearly, not even close to what we're seeing here.
I wouldn't think so.
So in
either.
here is the ribbons, the steel ribbons.
Yeah, I know.
At 225.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was last year. I could get an updated estimate. If you want to take this offline and reconsider it for ARPA, that's totally
The
different.
steel ribbon is in the ARPA list?
It's zero.
Wow.
It's zeroed out because.
I thought we talked about
Because
this.
it's been on the capital plan
Yeah.
for years and we haven't approved it and for all the reasons. we
Right.
didn't get objections.
I don't think you're gonna go with $1 million wooden guide rail,
No.
right? So we can at least settle that tonight or this afternoon. Don't want to jump the gun on how late this is going.
Yeah, all right.
Move it along.
Let's move on.
So-
Next one.
Colonel Ledger, oh, sorry, no, I said that already, municipal building.
Okay, this has been something that's been managed according to a comprehensive plan, and that has updated every year. That's attached. And it's municipal facilities capital needs update. The big difference this year is we have sunset the original critical needs fund, which was to front load monies to catch up. And they are guided through the council several tens of thousands of dollars through sales of buildings in town, 2 different schools, I think, right?
Yeah,
Gales
former
Ferry
Gales Ferry and Legend
former
Center.
schools. So that allowed us to catch up on a lot of things. Now we have a single reserve fund like we have as fire company was sharing their reserve fund. This is now a building reserve fund. So looking for $100,000 to keep it rolling, and we have all of the different buildings and their most pressing needs identified in this report. And one of the things with ARPA coming along was that we were able to offload some of the costs associated with the on budget, but also the bond. We just bonded for the 3 roofs. And so that relieves pressure on these funds as well. So we have a number of different high priority items that are identified that will still be captured by this, and we'll move into the medium and then the low priority. But I think the mayor, you said that we're going to use ARPA fund for the HVAC at town hall.
Yeah, we had 75,000 in
Yeah,
there.
so that's
for
another one that
that.
takes out of
Systems
here.
That reduces the 1.4 total cost that you have in this PDF.
Yes, the total backlog, right?
Backlog, well, unfunded
all-
was 893
Okay,
and
well, all of it, really. Yeah, it will take some. I'd have to go back and see as the different projects are funded elsewhere. I'd have to go in to adjust the spreadsheet here.
because it says you have about 500 in the balance right now.
Is that true?
Just
As
by
of
your
December
PDF.
31st.
Okay.
You did 496.
I said the present balance stands at 250 in my backup. The balance of funds that, you're talking about the balance in the spreadsheet,
Oh, this is the balance.
net available funding,
Says 496.
yeah.
That's what's in the munis line.
Right,
496 is.
Ian's double checking.
yeah.
I'm gonna do my best.
I hope
but there's
Munis
no
is
op-
correct.
Munis is
Yeah, I
correct.
don't know. That could be an error on, that could be an error on my
I
part.
promise.
That might be a number I didn't update. It looks like it's got that little.
So you just found some money.
I didn't find, I lost some money. I lost a half of what I said. So you see a little green tab in the corner. a little-
Yeah.
That means that it's not calculating the way the others do. So
Marcia,
I don't
do you
know
know
if that's
what it's actually called
Uh-oh.
in Munis?
It's, I can tell you the account number.
Okay.
210-401.
210-401-11.
now?
11.
No. I think
Yeah.
we're- well,
I just-
58240 and 58241.
Building.
But one of them's been zeroed out
But he
because
has it all
we
itemized out.
moved all the funds, and
Doesn't
that'll
have
show
that
you
cost
what
itemized
we've
out
got.
there. We don't have those
No, I know.
costs.
And I don't know why,
But
what
then
that's
you would have to
adding.
increase that.
Again, there's
Is what I'm
hidden
saying.
columns that aren't printed out here, so somehow I can't go see why there's a disconnect. there.
So the 496 is probably
I
not
was just
correct.
talking about it
Probably
yesterday.
not.
And you're carrying that in Munis.
No,
No,
That's what
What's
you
the
said.
amount in munis?
I think
do
250.
you
is-
want it without encumbrances or with encumbrances for this year?
Confused.
Because it's a significantly different number.
Well, maybe that's what the available funding was, because it was for projects that,
Our
With
original
We're
budget
still
was
in process.
248,
yeah,
5,
That's about
there's
200.
191 encumbered,
Yeah, so that's
and then
why.
56,000 left over.
Yeah, so that's why it's nearly 500,000.
So
because
you're
there's-
only requesting 100.
Yeah,
So your
100.
balance will go up to 150, see, because.
150 available. I've
Right.
got some that was encumbered. That's what the whole point was.
Right, the
But
90
you know what it is? I know why.
191.
I know why that's there. That's gonna become unencumbered and go back into that value because of the bond. Those are roof POs.
They are.
And the,
right,
right, and so I will change that to the fund that the bond money is in,
Right.
and it'll take it out of this. So that's where it's close to.
So what was the unencumbered balance?
56, right?
No, total. If you-
Oh,
Without the encumbrance,
Yeah.
it's 248,000.
So you're gonna go up to 348,000 once those encumbrances are.
no, it's 191 encumbered, right?
Yeah,
So
He wanted-
191 and 248.
Mhm.
So that's like 439.
Oh,
But
I
the
see.
expenditures are still gonna happen out of this, even though it's bonded.
yeah, it's not.
Oh, is that
gonna
where the
change
bond,
account.
oh, is the bond money
will
gonna go into those, that
It'll
account?
go into the capital.
Oh, okay. It'll just mean that the available funding will be,
Go up.
But we still have, the projects you and I talked about, demising wall in the old tax collector's office to separate that into 2 offices.
okay, so here's what happens. I plan certain projects and then other things come up. So this is not one that I have in the plan.
I know, so you and I were talking about it yesterday.
Unless, so that would have to be factored in also
Yeah.
as a priority and would keep others, at bay.
So I'm just doing simple math here, right? I'm reading, I'm looking at your PDF, the attachment, to ClearGov,
Yeah,
and the unfunded balance for all of the projects outlined in your PDF
mhm,
is 893.
yeah.
And so what is, and I'm sure it's in here, and if I had read it in detail, I'm sure I'd have my answer, but since you're sitting here, the period of performance for all of these projects is how long?
Well, it's just
No, I mean, like, as far, what time span do you? plan
probably
on
looking at
com-
15 years
So
to
15 years.
roll
so
out, yeah.
the
And,
Math I'm doing in my head is 100,000 a year. Are you gonna be able to meet the 900?
well, and also additional needs are rolling in. See, this is
Right.
the whole point of that. And so this is still somewhat of a work in progress. We just put this in place like 3 or 4 years ago. And what's happened is additional funding has come along and allowed us to take care of items
Right.
that are in here with off budget, let's say, off budget funding. So we're looking at that as still a possibility, but
But the way you're doing.
Yeah,
it
it's-
is you're trying to carry a balance, which
Yeah.
is great for those.
I mean, if you want to give me 200,000, I'd be
Yeah.
happy with that. That's,
That'll work too.
But the
I know what you're
100,000
saying. It's like 100,000 is not going to get you there.
Well, no, but it will
Well,
if it's,
yeah,
if these
right.
projects are all
Yeah.
getting accomplished over 15 years, then it should get you there plus some for those
Right.
unexpected occurrences you're talking.
Well, we hope so. I mean,
Depending
Minus
on-
inflationary costs.
Yeah,
exactly.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, any additional funding will just get us there sooner in terms of catching up on some of these. See, some of these were still in the kind of behind the curve category, like parking lot paving and drainage. I mean, if you look at the highway garage and you look at the senior center, I keep those down at the low end of the medium because, it's asphalt and it's not really something that's affecting a lot of people. So at any rate.
Is that something we could do, like crack sealing and seal coating of the senior center to buy us a few years?
No,
No.
that's
Too far gone?
That's too far. gone.
Okay.
That's original pavement.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just like,
Yep.
all right.
Excellent.
One of my favorites.
Mhm.
This one's a long one.
Well, it's got a long history. Hopefully, we're going to be shortening that history. Things are in motion
Yeah.
in ways that are maybe,
Might be
I
saving.
won't say miraculous yet. but,
No.
So I gotta find where I went with that one. Okay. All right, there's a long history there. I won't go over it all. But we're now in the queue for a lot SIP funded approach to this. We are shovel ready except for permits. Permits will have to be resurrected They expired last August. But I understand from our consulting engineer that can be done. I mean, I'm not sure if there's major rule changes that will affect things, but the design is complete. There's a tight cost estimate. The plans have been submitted through the shepherding of SE Cog, Kate Rattan, who's helping us quite a bit on this, to the DOT. They've looked at it already and pre-qualified it in its by nature. It has to go through the lot zip approval process at the COG, which means it's a competitive process. So that's the uncertainty, maybe as much as anything. And at the same time, there may be other ways in which this could be funded. Very low probability. Right? There's a special legislation set up just for this one bridge, which I guess there's a lot of those that get thrown up and they throw them at the wall and they don't stick. That's probably what the case is with this one. And there's also potential for BIA funding on this still. Someone's reached out to me who works with the BIA and very aggressively. I've been sending emails almost every other day to give him information. And he's already working with the Mashantuckets on other things. And I've kept them in the loop so that they know this is going on. So I'm just letting him go with it. I mean, if he makes this happen, then BIA will fully fund this.
Who's the person you're working with? Just out of curiosity.
Roger Marcos, never heard of him. So that would be the divine intervention if that happens. That was not even something I was pursuing. It just showed up on my email one day. So we got LOTSIP and we've got that other one, the legislation, which is low probability. None of them would require us to fund any more than we already have in place. So I'm just keeping it there. There has been some funding put there. It's more like seed money. There's been a temporary fix that we're on a clock for. About 9 more years now left before they shut the bridge down, apparently. So hopefully between now and then, this will happen. So no funding required at the moment.
So this just represents our share though, right? Versus Stonington's share.
Right. We have just maybe, what did I say, $48,000 left right now to manage maybe a few engineering things that we would have to get involved in. There's nothing from getting to the construction phase that would require too much, I don't think, for that. And then once we get to construction, I think it's entirely covered by whichever direction we go. And if the Mashantuckets take it on like they took on the Shoeville Road Bridge, administratively, it would be a breeze too.
Only took 7 years.
What's that?
Only
Oh,
took 7 years.
well, how many years are we into this one?
Since I've been here.
Yeah.
Yeah, originally we were told the span was too short to even qualify for BIA.
Yeah, but I think now this Roger Marco says as long as the span ends up being more than 20 feet, which it will, it's 33 if they would.
Right.
The design is a 33-foot span. So I mean, hey, he's just running with it. He's great. I don't know.
Moving on to road restoration. Okay.
All right, road restoration. You all should be pretty familiar with this. Many of you have been writing this for a long time. I always put in for the thumb rule worth of money and come up a little shy. And just we make it work. We actually did so well last year. I don't know if there's a latent curve under the road surface rating that's going to catch up to us right now, but we actually exceeded our peak road surface rating after last year's construction efforts. But you're driving around and you're seeing issues popping up. And so we are going to be dealing with some things that we're going to have to take care of to keep it up to snuff. So I've got every year I have a fiscal year plan that's not quite ready to roll, but this year I've already met with the microsurfacing crack sealing contractor. I actually had the POs cut today, thanks Ian, for that work. And we're looking to get out early on the main roads that are going to be microsurfaced, which will be all of Pumpkin Hill Road. So that represents the first road that's going to be microsurfaced the second time, the southern end. The north end of Spicer Hill, which will be the second time, and then Rose Hill Road. And I've already met with the paving contractor, Charlie Pastriak, and went around and looked at the roads we're targeting for paving this year, which are some of the orphaned roads. Our main roads are up to snuff now, so we can keep going with the side streets. So some of our worst side streets will be tackled this year. You may have heard that Carl Pastriak passed away this last year. Suddenly, it was a short bout with cancer, but it was kind of came up suddenly. But Charlie, his brothers, decided to keep going. So Pastriak will still be doing our work. And the word is they did well in Ledger on the bid. So anyway, that's that. And what's the other thing? And that stretch of Whalehead is in that plan. That stretch right off of 214 there.
When it delaminated the
Yeah,
micro
that
surface.
micro, yeah, we don't know what happened there, but that's gonna be hopefully taken care of, so. That's that, but I put in for what I normally do. I think the mayor brought it back down to what he normally does.
Also, question for Marcia and Ian and Matt. So when I look at the CapEx plan, right, even on ClearGov, it has the nominal amount, which is 1.115 million. But in the mayor's preamble, he said he reduced it to 950.
Yep.
So why wouldn't that be in the mayor's budget? The 950, I see the 115 in here.
Now, those are the department requests.
So
They haven't been updated.
So when I look at this in the mayor's PDF, which is the capital improvements 1-year plan, that's the total capital requested, which is what it says, right? So it doesn't include what is final, what the mayor. put.
No, that's why we have the cost sheet, which for
Because
the
it's-
public's view, that cost sheet will be included on the website.
Okay, because I was noting discrepancies where I'm trying to figure out why, but I mean, so like the tax revenue, the amount of capital being funded through taxes. And the request is listed at 1.5. When I just go back 2 pages, it's more like 1.28. And so I wasn't really seeing how that jived. So where would I find what the mayor has proposed for capital?
The budget spreadsheet.
If you look at
This right here?
Yeah, you'll see the mayor.
That and also that number for the taxpayer column should equal what's in the,
In this, yeah, it does, yeah.
yeah.
So to Council Ryan's point, ultimately, what will we show in ClearGov for capital accounts for the budget?
That's not going to change. Those are just the departmental requests.
So we're always going to show the departmental requests. The actual budget will be,
The actual budget number. So that spreadsheet will go into the budget
okay,
along with the budget. And the taxpayer column will equal whatever you decide it's going to
Yeah,
be.
right.
And that will equal the number that's in the budget presentation that you
okay.
decide on.
But we're going to get the same question.
Yeah.
if People are looking at ClearGov.
They'll see the updated operating expenses revenue, right? They'll see the updated operating expenses that
Right.
eventually get approved by the council on a referendum, right? But you're saying the CapEx, whatever the resulting CapEx will be, it's still gonna be the requested amount. It's not
Yeah,
gonna
and
be
we can
updated.
put something on the capital page that
Yeah.
says this is the department requests only. This is the, there is no mechanism in ClearGov to change the capital request amounts.
Really?
Yeah,
just-
that's why we have the
You
spreadsheet.
can't just edit it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be strange. So even going back in history, how would you ever know what was actually approved?
Well, they got units, they use units.
The spreadsheet right there.
Yeah, I know, but the public, isn't this supposed to be public
The
facing
public-
too?
Yeah, but
All right, why don't we take that offline?
Yeah.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. There's probably a way that I haven't figured out yet or looked
Sorry
for.
to
Oh, that's okay.
bring you down.
No, no.
Okay, next.
Must be the all my.
It's a pooled vehicle.
Okay, so pool vehicle, that is just, that's our run around miscellaneous fleet vehicles, where we supply vehicles to town hall staff and senior center vehicles, and we typically
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, grab used vehicles for that, or repurpose vehicles for that. We used to have a real good thing going with the state surplus, but the state now does what we do. They auction and get much more money. We used to be able to go up on the lot and dicker with the guy and get, I mean, that Jeep I drive was $1,250.
Yeah.
Got it for 20, with 22,000 miles on it, and I'm,
Wow.
if it lasts a couple more years, I'll retire in it.
I know.
You know,
It's
so-
amazing.
So at any way, we don't have that anymore, and we have to pay a lot of money for used cars, and it's a ticking time bomb because we used to get targets of opportunity and always be having newer used vehicles available. So now we're kind of nursing some of these ones along well past 100,000 miles. In fact, the zoning official's truck is 200 and something thousand miles.
240, 250.
Probably.
Luckily, my car is not, so.
So, I mean, you know, these don't get a lot of mileage, but that's not always a good thing.
Yeah.
And so we have some oddball vehicles, but that's a pool fleet, and the balance has held steady, if not gone up with actual auction monies. We get good return when we do sell our stuff. And so I'm not asking for any money again this year. Usually I go into it initially considering 5,000, but there's no need, even though it may hit us one year where we'll have to deplete what we have more extensively. So at any point. But so that's the pool vehicle.
So in the spreadsheet, I'm seeing light equipment 15,000, but I don't see pool. That's because you're not.
There,
requesting-
I'm not requesting anything, but it's, I have actually have a fund that has a balance and we manage.
You're not,
Why don't, why don't we jump ahead, because these are, the next few things are a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about large trucks. We have some issues with large trucks. We had an issue where we had 4 out of service. or 2
Yeah.
out of service. Councilor Ryan said, what if we use some ARPA funds to buy another truck as a reserve? And maybe not necessarily use it as a reserve, just have one more truck and use it along with the other ones.
Well, let me tell you what we have, just so you know from a context standpoint, whether that's really going to be appropriate. We have 11 routes. We'd like to go back to 12 routes, but we don't have the personnel. There was a time when we had 12 routes and but we have 11 routes, 11 full primary trucks. We have 1 large backup truck. And then we have a large multi-purpose truck that we reconfigured to use for various purposes, including throwing a jet sander on the back. So we have 13 available trucks for 11 routes.
Okay, all right. So I think that's what you had in mind.
right.
And so I'm not sure if that would be the best way to go.
Well, and it was I think it might have been a couple days after the
Yeah.
last snowmageddon that we had. And I talked to Steve about that particular subject and, point blank said, could you use another truck? And, got the
So
same
there's our
story.
answer.
there,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
I mean, that was, on a big storm like that, you got to expect you're going to be struggling somewhere along the way. And that was unusual. Just a combination of things that came together like that, so.
So in the past, back to road restoration, we've typically asked for 1.1 million and you get 750 or 950.
I've been getting 950 the last few
So
years. I think.
that's worked in the past.
Yeah.
With heavy equipment, you've asked for, or large trucks, you've asked for 175,000, you've got 125. Has that been the history too?
No, I actually increased it
He asked for 175.
and I twice in,
That's what I said.
125.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, we have been, this is how bad it's gotten with trucks. The history was it's been 100,000.
Yeah.
And then this year, the bottom has fallen out. It's a couple things have happened. We tried to go with a 25-year life cycle on these trucks. And we let things go to that point where they were all, in fact, we're gonna have trucks that are gonna be 26 before we get them out of the fleet. And that just doesn't work. And so I said, we gotta bring it back to 20 years. Some towns go with a 10-year life cycle. I don't know how they manage that. I don't know how they afford that. I don't know. That had to be structured a long time ago and they just got used to spending that kind of money. But so we're trying to reel it back to 20 years at the same time meeting unbelievable inflation in the truck. We had signed on to a proposal we're due for a new truck this year. And then the guy said, can't honor it. Here's your new proposal. And so the proposal is $215,500.
For what?
For a single,
Oh, yeah, right here.
2-axle truck.
Not including the plow.
Not including the plow, which we usually take out of the light equipment account on an every 2-year basis anyway, So that, just to give you perspective, let me look at my spreadsheet. You'll see this in the spreadsheet if you look at it, the planning spreadsheet. And
Yeah, I like the spreadsheet.
I go out to,
I really like that.
I know you do.
I go out to 2051, if you like that. I won't even be around then,
He
but
loves it.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't have that on here, but
2050, but at
I'd
any
love to see
rate,
that.
the original cost of some of these 2-axle 6-wheel trucks, when we first got them in 2000, let's say for instance, 2000, in 2000 was $70,000. In the year 2000, 22 years later, it's 215,000. Now, so, I mean, so there's just no way to keep up without bringing it back to 20 years so that you have vehicles that are serviceable and then affording them with the inflation that we've been hit with.
So this is, and he left. But this is where I was talking about earlier, where, okay, we're getting rid of, if we replace a truck, right, that's old, and we get rid of it through gov deals, somebody's gonna buy it for obviously a much depreciated price. That goes back into his capital fund.
Yeah, I include that in my spreadsheet at some I put $5,000 in there as a miscellaneous income, just to
I'm
offset the
super
cost.
excited about that one, 'cause it's in black and white, but this.
Oh, no, this is what we got on here, right?
All right, so this is Steve's adjustment. I think I told you, Bill, that I
I went back.
made a mistake on this one.
Well, so if you look, I have a miscellaneous income line, which
Yeah,
is,
oh, right here.
I put $5,000 in.
So that's what that is.
That's for the sale of the asset that's going out.
Okay.
Now, that, and it's a fluid document when you have something like this. So if you get more money, you just plug it in there and it'll come out. And you make adjustments as necessary, but the inflationary pressures aren't gonna cease, I don't think. When I had this prior spreadsheet, let me look, I'll tell you when I expected $200,000 for a truck. In 2035.
Wow.
In my prior spreadsheet. With a nominal inflation.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Before I got this present quote,
Yeah.
my prior spreadsheet, before I updated it for the new value there, showed that we wouldn't be hitting that value till about 2035.
2036 actually is when you broke 200,000.
Yeah.
205.
Yeah, so.
So now that
that's-
same year is 274.
So it's 15, so it's like 15 years ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
So what fails on the trucks, Steve? Everything or certain things? We went with
I think
stainless
it's,
steel bodies.
yeah, we did. So that's, we think will help. And we're actually going to, if they're serviceable, take those bodies and
Right.
switch them over.
Yeah.
So what fails, I mean, you just get you got these more complex engines with emission controls.
Yeah.
We frequently run into trouble. We sent one packing that we tried to fix in-house and we didn't get much money for it, but that was out the door after 12 years because it just failed the emission control system. So it's just a whole combination of things, you know, things do rot out, the trucks wear out, you've got wear parts, you've got suspension parts, you've got all those things that end up just failing over
Rails and
time.
bodies. Frame rails and bodies.
Yeah, well, this also contemplates periodic refurbishment, like, so some of this money here is to go and blast and repaint to keep, the you know, so you're not gonna get a truck 20 years without doing some serious refurbishment along the way. So some of the money includes refurbishment potential. It's just should have brought the maintenance foreman, and he'd keep you going for a half an hour, how many things fail on trucks by the time they get to 20 years old, you know.
So what are we saying here for, the mayor's approved 125 and I see up here baseline 125, 10,000.
Yeah, I think it needs to go back to the 175 number. You know, so Steve brought me the newest quote, and of course, we were working off of a projected cost that was vastly different. And then I think it was yesterday, Steve, when you came in with the new updated quote of 215,500. And I said, well, clearly the reduced budgeting isn't going to work based on today's costs that changed dramatically. So we're going to have to look at adding the 50 million back to the capital line.
Yeah, and as you see, if you look at the plan, we are going to be nursing trucks along to a 25-year life cycle through 2031, even as it is. So the trucks that we have coming in more recently are the ones that are going to be the 20-year trucks. The ones we've had in the fleet for a while, we're going to still nurse them along. So there's going to be some expense there.
Heavy equipment.
Yeah. Okay, heavy equipment. This is, yeah, we're at a crossroads here shortly on that. We've got, well, again, same principle, a reserve fund that projects life cycle costs for replacement of the key heavy equipment. And that includes the loader, front end loader, which actually is on its last year of lease payment this fiscal year. Then we have the roadside mower, the sweeper, the catch basin cleaner, the chipper, the skid steer, backhoe, roller, and another couple items. Day-to-day heavy use ones, we have a life cycle from 10 to 15 years. And then some of the ones that are not, you know, we will go up to 30-year for life cycle, depending on what the item is, that you'll see. But we're also looking at restructuring our outfitting for the work we do to make ourselves more efficient and maybe, you know, align our resources better. We're up against a catch basin cleaner and a sweeper that are about the end of their life cycle. And so I'm working with the department on whether to even do catch basin cleaning in-house anymore. It's a service that I had evaluated years ago, thinking if we were going to offload something, that's something we would do. You can secure a contractor to do that on a basin basis, you know, but you have to get ahead of it more than one season. So it can't happen this year. It's going to have to be something we work out and get ahead of it for next year. But so we're going to have to get another year out of that. The sweeper's probably got another couple years if we stretch that. But we're looking, you know, within the request, this isn't outside the requested dollars here. We're looking at a way to make this work with the reserve we have and the appropriations that we seek. And there's not been a major, the only thing it was scheduled for a $5,000 inflation bump this year, and that's what it has. There's nothing more than that now. And so this contemplates keeping our present outfitting the way it is. But there may be a discussion I have with the mayor and the council sometime this spring as we're going into next fiscal year about what we may do going out from here.
Okay. Question for you, Marcia, and that finance. So on the spreadsheet, it says the revenue source for the 85,000 for heavy equipment 40 of it is coming from taxes, 45 from conveyance fee revenue.
Mhm.
But on Clear Gov, it says the whole thing's coming from taxes.
Well, again, that's what the department head.
So
enters.
that's still one of those anomalies that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I can't really decide sometimes where I can assign the revenue from.
Okay.
Right. They don't necessarily know all the
So I don't know.
options available.
I just say, here's how much money I want, give it to me.
And then he holds out his hand.
Yep. And waits ever
I
so
am a
patiently.
taxpayer. in Ledford, so
Right.
this will take
Thank you very much.
He patiently paces into the mayor's office. Have you decided on this yet? Have you decided on the amount? Oh my God, it got cut. Oh my God, how am I gonna survive? Right, Steve?
So what are we doing now?
Not that bad.
Um,
Come on, that's a little
Going to
dramatic.
Juliet?
Little
I
hyperbolic.
think we better it's 4:04. so
Yeah.
let's move on. Thank you, Steve.
Is that everything?
Yes.
Okay, the small trucks and the slight equipment are kind of,
I think it's okay to skip over this.
that just is the same idea.
Yeah.
We, you know,
You have to do your operating budget?
Juliet's got to do her capital and her operating budget, then I got to come back and do my.
Oh, okay. Good thing you're in the same building.
What's your hard
I have a
stop
hard
time?
stop at 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only thing I have in capital is the GIS
Oh, okay.
money.
Mhm.
That's 5,000 a year. That'll,
And
I
we
mean-
want to do that.
but, definitely, I don't know why it's in capital and not in operating, if it's something that's gonna be ongoing, which it.
I thought we
needs to be.
approved that. didn't
We approved the
Yeah, that was,
GIS.
Oh, the up.
yeah, that's the
yeah,
current
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
huge backlog. This
Yeah.
is
Right.
designed to be the every
This is
year.
the ongoing.
Right,
Yeah.
I
So
still have,
that's a good question then. Why is it
Yeah, I think
in
it is a good
capital,
question.
not
What is this again?
operating?
so,
GIS.
so we have,
$5,000 a year for GIS.
I
Is
think
that
there's
an
a
annual
GIS.
cost, or is that a
Yeah.
buildup over time that we have to pay a large amount at once?
well,
Well, we
we're
shouldn't.
doing that now because we didn't do any updates
Yeah.
for the last
Well, then we need to build up.
20 years.
If it's a buildup kind of thing over multiple years, it needs to be in capital because there is no.
It shouldn't be a build.
No, there won't.
No, we approved the funding for the.
Poor Juliet
For the
has not been
catch-up.
able to get a
I know.
word in
All
edgewise.
right.
We're trying to help her. She loves our help.
She's like, these people are
All right.
crazy.
You have 3,200 or 32,000, I think, or something in there now, that I'm gonna use all of that guaranteed to just clean up the mess that you have. What I'm trying to prevent is the not having a mess going forward. So I talked to Klaus, who's our current person, who does believe that he would come in, or somebody would come in under that annually once we were caught up. When I say there's a lot to be caught up, I'm not even sure, how to do it budgetarily, do I just keep drawing from that SIP fund or what, but we'll go through that. So,
Some of that goes back, what, decades?
yeah. And we never, 1997 was the last time you updated your wetlands map, which is a problem.
Yeah.
There's other things, but I don't know if in that also,
Well, wetlands
know.
have shrunk, right?
what?
Well, we've updated, we just haven't updated in GIS.
No, you haven't updated it at all. So
Yeah.
We did the
She
map.
gave us that report.
1997 is the date of that map.
I thought there was an update.
Right, so
Anyway, let's go, yeah.
let's focus, is the 5,000, is it still playing catch up every year for a few years?
I'm not sure, like, where does, so this 30 something I saw, what is that?
That's the current balance?
In the capital fund.
Yes.
And so we keep adding to it.
Well,
Yeah, but we don't have to if
You
you
don't
think
have
that
to.
it's just coming out of operating.
Yeah,
You
I
could just-
wouldn't,
Alright.
I'll use that 30,
Yeah.
let me go
It's
through
gonna go over
that
there.
and then
But
That
what,
5 is going.
what does
No, I need
Klaus think
something.
he would spend annually to
About
maintain? it
3,000.
every year? 3,000.
Mhm.
So that's what the,
You want 3,000.
and,
But I would put that under our
That should be under
contracted
operating,
services.
under-
Not under
under-
capital.
yeah, so we take the 5,000 out of capital.
Right.
And we put 3,000 into operating.
All right, now, before you get too comfortable putting that somewhere else, want to consider, I don't know where it comes out of either the flyover.
Oh, yeah.
It's typical to do flyovers every 3 years because everything in zoning has a 3-year window. You have got to get the person into court within 3 years
Yeah,
to,
right, right.
so you want to have as frequent a flyover as you can so we can spot issues without walking down these
New
very
sheds,
large
new
shared
houses.
driveways down some crazy subdivisions that she doesn't do.
Wait, what is it?
So a flyover is it's a,
Just a
the
fixed
state does a
number.
flyover at a certain level, but you can have the towns
Mhm.
come down a little bit, so you can really, see if somebody's put a shed and they didn't pull
What
any
do- so,
permits or,
yeah, I
things
got
like
that, but what do we do? Do we drones or we?
No.
No, it's a plane.
It's just a regular piloted fixed wing aircraft.
But they also can do some work with the wetlands too, so they
Yeah.
can use that data. This is why I'm thinking in particular, at least if we get one more done, that would be great. Because I think there's a way that they can sort of,
They're not,
basically
yeah.
map the wetlands with that, so.
You're not allowed to fly below 500 feet.
No, I know. it's
Oh,
not
I-
like that,
I
but
know.
they have,
They're not getting that close.
it's like,
You want the contract?
it's like a,
Yeah, no, I'm not a commercial pilot.
So let's keep moving. So
so anyway, I don't know where that's gonna fall, if
Yeah,
if that's something you wanna start saving for, it's pricey, but it's not I can't give you an estimate because you would wanna join in with another town to make it cheaper, so the more
Right.
towns you get.
I already
know,
talked
so it's
to
about
North Stonington and
12,000.
Griswold, and they both want to take part, so we could have
Okay.
a 3-town.
Okay.
Preston can't afford it, but
would you do it every year? The
No, no,
flyover?
no,
Thanks,
no.
Fred.
Every how many years?
Leave-
Three.
I would
That
say
was a
three,
poke, I think.
like 5 would,
But you don't know what that would cost.
no, because you don't know how many towns are
Yeah,
gonna
right.
latch on.
Right.
So it's a hard number to put in, but if you wanted to put something aside, each year
Yeah.
towards it, that would
Do you know
probably why.
ballpark, if we went in, if it was just us, just for ballpark?
It's like 40 grand.
Okay, wow.
It's not,
The last time we had, do you remember the last time we had an estimate, and I can't think of the company's name?
Sanborn.
Sanborn, that's right.
It's over
Sanborn did
40.
it, and it was, I think it was like, what, $30,000 at that time?
I think it was 40 something, so
Was
it might even be more than
I'll
that.
check. I have the invoice, but yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't cheap, and it's not gonna be cheap, but
But you can get it down quite a bit.
Yeah.
If you,
So do you want to come back to us with revised numbers? If you can
I
get 'em?
can't really, so I
Take
mean,
them? All
because we have
All
to
right.
determine,
So
well, we
we
could
need to-
assume 3 towns and try to get a number.
yeah.
I could do that,
So we-
I'll do
So
that.
do we, based on that, do we put a rough number in the SIP to
I
save
think so.
for,
Yeah.
if we do it next year?
I don't think it's a bad idea.
So you're saying there's at least 2 other towns.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if we use 40 grand as a near, as a notional number, it's 13 something each, so we. Yeah.
I mean, the
Keep
very
it at
least,
5
you could
and
put the
just
1
rename it.
5 and
Yeah.
go put that over there, take one of the, and then we'll have a better idea. I mean,
So we're gonna keep the 5 in then, and we'll just rename the account name, right? Put it in a different account.
Is it GIS
It's
flyover?
GIS, right?
Yeah, it really is a GIS
It's
flyover.
it's all GIS.
yeah, actually.
Oh, you keep
well,
it.
we could do this one.
Yeah.
If I
And
could
then
use it for
add
that.
5,000 to the operating,
Yeah.
your
Well, three.
operating line,
Three.
operating
3 to
expenses.
operating.
3 to operate.
3.
Yeah.
3 to operating, okay.
And you don't have to do that this year, though. Because
Oh,
he's
okay.
still gonna be catching up.
All right,
This whole-
just remember
That's
next
true
year.
too, you're right.
Next
year.
Yeah, we still have a pot of money that he can work off of right now.
But when we need it, that's where I want to put it instead of in the capital.
Okay.
Put it in the
That's fair.
operating.
Okay.
Scanning documents is something you also, none of your documents are scanned. So if you had a fire, you'd lose all your building records.
Okay, are we going through the operating budget right now?
No, I didn't know where that would fall either, is my
Oh,
question.
okay.
So I haven't put it anywhere, but where would that go? I'd also look for a grant, but
I think that would go under operating.
even if it's a one-time, do all the documents.
It's not a capital improvement, I think it's an operating.
Yeah, you have to continue doing it, right? Or are you saying that's just part of your normal
No,
practice?
no,
right
because
now?
we now, I have
Right.
them scan everything in, so
Right.
starting when I started.
So you're saying
they
paying
scan.
for a service to scan it in, or?
Yeah, just like a
Okay.
town clerk would.
So we do
There
it
is a
now
grant.
going forward, but you're saying you want to go back and scan.
You have none of those documents scanned anywhere.
Right.
So that's a one-time project.
Do we know any idea?
One time, really long.
I
project.
was gonna say it's a really intense project.
It's a scary project too, because you send the boxes out.
Right.
And they
They
don't.
come back.
Oh my
back.
gosh.
Scan the right way.
That's what we do with Iron Mountain.
They can't come in.
They
Yeah,
don't scan it, they just.
They don't scan it, they just hold it.
And you hold.
No, it
it.
was kind of, it's
I think I
yeah.
got one back once.
So it's something, let's not worry about it right now, but something on the radar. You could also I was joking with the mayor, like somebody with community service time or something, like a god awful job,
Yeah.
just sit there and,
Well,
scan, but you should have somebody do it.
there is
Take a
that,
while.
there is that reimbursement, that bill is going for college reimbursement for Connecticut. That is gonna require 100 hours of community service.
I can fill it for them.
Look at that.
Really
And
horrible
they're
job.
college kids. They gotta know how to scan and file.
Oh, yeah.
No, this is after you graduate.
Okay.
And they're putting them through a shredder one by one. Say, what are you doing? Scanning.
Oh, my gosh. Anyway, so. First,
That's a scary
But
thought.
you'd want to be using this, or you'd want a new SIP.
no, I would keep it there, because I mean, I'm gonna do my best to help Klaus too, so we
Right.
can keep some of these costs down, but, we have a pool of money there, as long as we can,
Okay.
that's flexible, so
Right.
maybe some of that could be put towards a flyover if we get two towns that say, yeah, no, we're ready to go.
Oh, I was
then-
talking about the
then do
scanning.
it. Scanning, let me look for a grant as
Yeah.
well.
That's more just a heads up or awareness for us, right?
Yeah, just do the town clerks do that?
No. But they get grants.
They do
from
get
the
the
state,
grant.
yeah.
Yeah, they do every year.
Oh, see, that sucks because they won't give two.
Oh.
I gotta sneak in whenever they take a break.
Mhm.
You could talk to Patty and see.
Yeah.
If there's a year she could take off and not
Yeah.
get it.
Maybe I can join on. All right, so
So-
that, and I guess I have a lot of grants that are capital non-recurring, but I guess they're not technically CIPs, but. So there's a lot of funds that have got going that we're managing, but
So let's do operating expenses, land use.
yes, mine isn't very exciting. They don't seem to use a lot of the money, so the boards and commissions don't. But this year I did keep some of it in because the new statute says they have to be trained. So some of the money you're seeing in there is, I would have cut it, but they do need some training, the 2 hours of training, so.
Just a quick, for Tim's purposes, building department and zoning department used to be separate. Now they're
Right.
part of land use. Okay.
So the only changes that are notable, it's another year of building official or building code book updates. They cost $1,600. But our department doesn't typically go through all of its operating expenses, so I didn't raise it 1,600. I think I only raised it 1,000, didn't I?
So there are two lines, there's operating expense and there's code and reference.
Yeah, but it has new code books for building official came out of operating expenses the last time, so that's where I kept it. And that's where you have the most money anyway, so. So, did you change that to 15? I don't know where that
Which one?
stands. The operating expenses, or well, you wouldn't have it that detail. So I anticipate out of the 1,600, 1,500 of that will come. Or we'll be able to cover the full 1,600 out of that 6,000.
Okay.
And then we joined sector again, which is what caused the bump in economic development.
Mhm.
And we reduced their operating expenses because they didn't earmark anything.
So,
That we couldn't do.
yep, so 6,600 is sector.
Yeah, that's the total of that line item.
That's the total.
5,450 is sector.
Yeah, so there is like 750 is in there for CERC.
That's it.
It's a matter of whether there's value in both. Previously, we went with CERC instead of sector. They now have new leadership at sector and it seems to be really clicking and they've already done some stuff for us too.
And I haven't, obviously.
Yeah, and Juliet, having come from
relationship,
sector,
having left there,
yeah.
yeah.
Sector membership.
So
So we weren't.
it may be, I don't see the
Good job, yeah.
EDC using the CERC membership.
Okay.
So I think we could probably safely call
We
that out.
should, it's very useful. And
Oh, they
like I
are.
said, yeah.
So how much are we taking?
750 can come out if we don't do that. And your state, you do Greater Norwich too?
Yep, so we have the Norwich Chamber and the Eastern Connecticut Chamber.
You got that much? So 750 comes out of
EDC.
EDC.
Dues and fees.
dues and fees.
58100. So after next year, the training is I'll try to do it all this year then, or some of it this year using the current budget because I didn't have anything earmarked for that either. So then going forward, you can drop that down every other year because they won't need training every 2 years.
That's planning training, the zoning training. that's
All-
what they gotta take down?
Yeah, all of the boards do.
Yeah, no, but the problem is, we may want to reduce it. If we get people coming on and off, they're gonna need to get,
Oh, then they're gonna have to be trained.
so I think it's gonna have to be a continued line item with some dollars in it all the time, so. like,
Yeah.
If a board member drops off of planning and zoning and a new one steps full on, that person's gonna need to get trained.
Well,
Admin,
but
just a-
luckily, every other year is the law seminar class and that counts for their training. So as long as a new person just goes to that, every other year they're in. So every other year
We
you
we
have
don't
that
to
paid
solve
for.
No, yeah,
Future years operating,
yeah.
so. Okay.
I'm not worried, but I need more time, more years to figure out what the history is.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank you.
And we're ahead of the game with fees, should make you happy. With the
Oh,
building
yeah, you've done really well with that.
Thank you very much.
Saving on salaries.
Thanks for sitting through all the stuff. too.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see what was going on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Juliet.
Steve,
Okay, I usually just hit high points and then you go to what you want to talk about. I think the mayor spoke to staffing. I don't know where we ended up there, Mayor. Where did you end up?
We split it.
Okay.
So we said we're gonna go with one.
All right.
So this budget includes one new FTE for Public Works.
Is that the supervisor one?
No,
No, it's in the,
Public Works employee?
yes,
highway.
that big line, yeah. Okay, so let me just go,
Yep.
I was gonna talk to that, but I'll get to that. So just a quick snow operations, we're amazingly right on average over the last, actually I should say the last 7-year average. If we don't get any more of these little nuisance things, which seems to be what we're gonna be facing, we should be okay. You know, I would have come to the council as I normally do at the stage of winter when it looks like we may be in trouble and seeks authority to overexpend, and obviously you haven't seen me, so we've just been watching it carefully and we're close enough to let it ride for now. Okay, so one big area, waste management area, is you probably are aware that the state itself is struggling with management of waste and disposal locations and options. Obviously, that's going to affect local communities at some point. Thankfully, we're one of 11 member towns with SCARA, and that has mitigated substantially the impact to those member towns, including us. But we no longer have that power purchase agreement, that lucrative purchase agreement, and so the substantial nest egg is bleeding constantly now. The cash flow is going to be negative from here on out. But it takes a while to bleed down $55 million. But there still has to be a plan to keep the whole thing viable long-term. Part of that was considering that raising tipping fees on towns, bringing them, we bottomed out at 58. And this year, the board approved a 59.25 tipping rate. So that means that that's going to translate based on the tonnage we're seeing to a higher number for us in the budget, which is what that reflects. And we're still seeing a trend of increase in our trash, not massive, but steady. We no longer have a lucrative arrangement with Willimantic Waste for recyclables disposal. And the cost now, it went from a $5 minimum revenue to a $70 a ton cost. SCARA has completely absorbed that, subsidized the towns for now. Hopefully, there's a new agreement coming up and the commodities have rebounded in terms of pricing. So it's possible that there will be a much more favorable arrangement, but the town's got to be anticipating at some point SCARA there, maybe offloading that depending on the cost of tipping fees. I didn't carry anything in the budget for that. I don't think SCARA intends in this next fiscal year to offload that on the towns. A couple other notable things that happened this last year. Willimantic Waste was purchased by Casella. You probably are going to start seeing the change in name on the trucks, on the carts as they get replaced little by little.
So here.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
Yep.
Our contract still remains under the original terms through June of 2025. And that has a built-in nominal increase, 2% or so a year cost for the curbside collection through 2025. It'll be interesting to see where things go. It's always interesting when we get to that time. And I just got word that Sterling Superior Services, who had been our curbside collection agency till Willimantic took over and has been doing our bulky waste for years, was just bought out by CWPM. So our contract is good through this June, and that's going to be rebid. And you know how much trouble we've been having getting 3 bids on that. I don't know what the numbers are going to look like, but you know, the trend has not been favorable there. I didn't carry a big increase there, but I'm afraid there might be some real.
Where did you say we're good through 2025?
That was the curbside collection contract with Casella, Willimantic Waste.
Oh, all right.
Is
So
there, do you think Casella will bid on that?
Yes, they will now, for sure. They did bid, Willimantic bid last time, but I think there was a relationship between Willimantic and Sterling because of how that went. So it might be more competitive this year.
Yeah.
You know, but we'll at least have 2 bidders. I don't know if Crandall will bid. He used to bid on it, but I don't know if he'll bid.
Yeah, that was for the bulky waste.
Yeah, bulky waste containers.
Yep.
Casella handles, Willimantic Waste handles Preston City's service at their transfer station. So they can do the work. Manning, the mayor's already said that he's going to, cut it from 2 to 1. What that means is I'm going to have to put back in money for part-time resources.
The mayor put back
You did.
in,
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
so
I
the
think it's
seasonal
15.
help.
Yeah, seasonal
is
help.
We put 15 in
15,000.
for seasonal.
We
Okay.
put in half the decrease.
Okay, and in
Yeah.
both of them?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
So,
Part-time snowplow?
yeah, part-time
Yep.
snowplow, yeah. So those accounts, of course, just offset our seasonal need for those times, but, so that's that. I won't talk about.
So the 87, yeah, a little over $87,000 increase for public works employees is for 1 additional employee.
No, the mayor must have cut that. Did that change? Because
Yeah, let's see.
the salary alone would have not been 87.
Well, that's why I'm asking. the
No,
question.
that would be half that. I mean, it'd be half of 87
So the mayor's
probably.
final budget says 827,900.
Oh.
And
Oh, well, was there a contract?
27,966.
then
Yeah.
last year's budget was 745.
Was there a contracts resolution and a pay increase for the rest of the crew there that's
Oh,
factored in?
maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they
got like a 2.5%.
Good point.
yeah, I think they. were
Yeah,
set.
there was 2.35% increase, and maybe that last year's budget did not include the settling of the contract that had the back charted. So that's gotta
And we
be,
had the supervisor.
yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
so what's that line about? Because the supervisor line went up
That,
23% almost.
yeah, well,
Mhm.
That was a contract thing too.
no, that's
Oh,
just, yeah, there's,
I
what
would
you
say-
have there is, and I explained it in my narrative, the narratives that are somewhere. Oh, I have narratives that are attached to the
Yeah.
department, and I talked about it there. He got a very favorable outcome in his negotiations. But the 23% increase is not straight salary increase. What it reflects is a moving of guaranteed overtime money into the salary lines. So
You
his,
could explain that once before too.
so his
yeah.
effective raise, though, still lucrative, 11%, but it wasn't 23%.
Gotcha.
So.
And
we're
that's
not-
a one-time move of the difference. The difference
Yeah,
between for
right. So
overtime.
from now on, it's just gonna be governed by whatever the contract step increases and raises are.
Right.
But I'm happy to have Joe, more so than any other superintendent I've ever had, to be honest with you. So, yeah. Let's see, I was gonna talk about, we already talked capital, so that's good. I have some specific line items that might have caught your attention or otherwise. Fuels uncertainty. Okay, so the increase was done before everything went haywire.
Wow.
It did accommodate some of the increases we've seen been happening over the course of the year already. But just to give you an idea of snapshot today, what we'd have to fund these accounts at if we went with the pricing, the float pricing. The diesel cost yesterday on the float contract for the state that we would piggyback off of was $4.84 a gallon. That would require a $100,000 budget line item, or for that.
Increase or total?
No, just 100,000 total.
It's $1 cheaper than the pumps, though.
You get a silver lining there maybe, but yeah. And unleaded was $3.82.4 a gallon. And between the public works and the PD budgets, because we split those, it would be $170,000 for unleaded. So when I put in, what I put in, 40,000.
But that was just for public works.
Well, yeah, just for public works. The diesel is entirely covered by my budget. So I had put in, what did I put in? You'll see there was an increase, but it was like nominal. And okay, so I put in 40,000 for unleaded and 60,000 for diesel.
Right.
So the police budget, I don't know what John Rich is gonna put in his, but between my 60 was diesel, 40 was unleaded. So between my 40 and his, usually he did 55. So he's probably at 60. So we probably budgeted 100,000, whereas the price today on the float contract is 170,000. And I put in 60,000 for diesel and we need 100,000 based on today's price. My recommendation is to not go crazy with this right now. If I have to come to the council for a supplemental appropriation during the budget year, based on what actually happens, it'll be middle year, it'll be after we've seen what's happened.
Right.
We haven't even secured our contract yet, and it makes no sense to lock in on a fixed price. It'd be like the worst time to do it. So we may go in with a float, and hopefully things will get favorably better. Just to tell you, I, as Marcia knows, I lose more sleep over this stupid fuel thing than anything else. I track differential between what option we use and the other option. So we locked in on some fairly favorable prices for this year. We have $2.11 for diesel and $2.24 for unleaded. And as of today, we have saved net $15,500 by locking in rather than going with the float contract. So
before that contract's up, we're gonna have to buy about 100 5-gallon jugs and fuel up on that number.
I think they're monitoring our usage of that contract carefully. We will not get those pricing for anything more, an ounce more than what
They
we get.
probably are.
They do. Last year, we had to split for this year's
Okay.
prices. Last year's prices were even better than that.
Wow.
And we had to pay off the balance of our total gallons under the last contract at that price, and then had to pick it up under the new price for what was left. So anyway, that's my recommendation. I wouldn't advise changing it because it's not the right time to even consider that.
So it's interesting because apparently Chief Rich put in a 21% increase for fuel, and so did you, on unleaded.
Well, he asked me what I did, so.
There we go. Well, you said 21.2.
That's-
Oh,
my
gosh.
Well, that's probably
Get
what
'em outta
mine
here.
is. Mine might have been 21.2. But anyway.
Somebody did.
It was 21.1 and they split it.
There you go.
I don't think that'll make the difference, but.
So just out of curiosity, your fuel price that you used to calculate this. did you
This
just-
one?
Yeah.
It was just looking at kind of at the time
Yeah.
that I came up with that number where things had already climbed to. And I said, there's no time to do it now. I said, I gave you the update, so I'm not gonna change my budget to those values. I mean, is it possible that they'll still be crazy like that? I think the odds are better that they'll drop at some point. Something's gonna happen. All right, my other items that I identified as maybe attention getters, I increased by 10,000, my professional and technical services budget, and that's for MS4, the MS4, which is a municipal sewer drainage costs. It's just the enforcement of this and the compliance of this is costing us money that, and we've been kind of within what I originally had thought we were gonna be year by year. There was a lag of expenses taking hold in 1 year. The second year, I think, it was not nearly as high, but it looked to me like this year was gonna be higher. The fuels, everything is contractual, really. The major increases, the waste management ones were all, as I described, they're related to either a contract increase or tipping fee increase or tonnage estimate increase. And I added 10,000 to bulky waste, which I hope will cover whatever eventualities hit us, but we could expect that is going to be hopefully represent a favorable outcome, because I've got my doubts about that, but I don't know enough to suggest anything different right now. There are changes in the budget, just we moved a couple line items from like an orphaned department to collect them together. The gravel and drainage, we moved into the other road work line. So we didn't change the dollar value. We just took the 6,000 and moved it. Added a line item for street light maintenance, because that's on us now. In fact, we just went through and took care of a few street light issues just this week. And we're caught up as far as we know. And then
Did you do that one that Tracy was asking about?
Cranwood.
Okay, so we can take.
Yeah, I saw
that
that
off the
one.
list.
Actually, I saw that one working this morning.
Oh, yeah.
well, yeah, you drive that way.
Yep.
At night, just go by and you'll see it. There's
Yeah,
one
but
of
yesterday
those.
morning, I think.
Tonight, you're not gonna get out of here.
This is my
before dark.
last trip anyway for the next 2 months.
Oh, is it?
Gas.
You can see you can join. We'll look at the Brady Bunch. You can be up there with everyone else. So then we have a $5,000 line item we added for the town green maintenance. That's now that my guys regularly get down there to do landscaping work and other building things over there. We added that. So anything else that you saw that got your attention? I'd be happy to.
Yeah, tree removal.
Oh, that's coming back to normal. I come every so often for a supplemental approval of funds when we size up what's happened in town and we're overwhelmed. We won't know till leaf out again where we're at. We're all caught up. Maybe just a handful we haven't got taken down that were on our list.
Ash trees too.
Yep, ash, and that's gonna, I think, keep rolling though.
Yeah.
Those are not done. So I expect we're gonna have a hefty list, but I don't know, I'm not prepared to ask for a particular amount of money for that right now. Beyond-
Eversource has been very good to work with on that.
Yeah, they've helped a lot with trees.
Bob blades.
I increased that by 1,000, right? That's the cost of steel. Yeah.
I'm actually surprised, given what's been going on at State Pier, that your salt and sand cost hasn't increased.
Well, what we've done was a big increase percentage-wise on cost of salt this year. It went from $66 to $78 or $77. So, but it has been an average year, so it has worked. We have had prices as high as $89. So that 125,000 had a little bit of reserve to it.
You weren't buying.
We weren't using driven.
Yeah.
No, we were buying from.
Yeah, but this is affecting the entire state.
Right. Yeah, we were buying from Morton.
Morton.
New Haven.
And that I have a standing bid waiver to use their product because of its effectiveness, as opposed to experimenting with these other ones that sometimes you come up against. And they were slightly higher on the CRPC bid than the low bid, Eastern Salt's low bid. But Preston used Eastern's product and so did Groton.
Groton.
So I'm gonna have a conversation with the new director or the manager up in Preston, their department, and find out how he liked their product. I mean, because if that's available, you know, it's always good to know you got something else that works.
I wasn't disappointed.
No, okay, good. That's what your Preston was.
So it seemed pretty good.
The other thing we can look at is they have a pier for salt in Providence too. Providence isn't.
Yeah, I think that's where Eastern
Is that
actually
where they're
ships
coming
from.
from?
I think
Okay.
that's where they ship from. Oh, overtime. I added for the snow overtime, I added 5,000 just because that's salary increases, and Joe's overtime comes out of that too, at his rate. And the terms of his overtime have changed.
But his
Yeah, he
total-
doesn't get overtime.
He does.
No, he does. but
And he gets-
less up.
Well, he gets more of it now.
Wait a minute.
He went went from a 2-hour minimum to a 4-hour minimum. So he gets more overtime now.
I thought part of.
He gets
so-
less overtime because the 3/4 of an hour that was overtime
Right.
went into his salary, but that got
Right.
built into his salary line.
Right.
That's why his salary is up
Yeah, yeah,
22%.
Right.
But now the terms of his overtime were more favorable. He gets 4 hours minimum instead of 2 hours minimum. So,
When he gets called.
Right.
which is a lot in the wintertime.
Yeah, right, in the wintertime.
But a lot of times it goes more than 4 hours anyway.
Yeah,
you
right.
know.
Exactly.
Last night he got a minimum 4 hours because it wasn't
Yeah,
a
this
full
little
4 hours, but
Hokey storm.
yeah.
Yeah, which is why I caution on some of the certain staff. If you want to ever have certain staff come to certain meetings, it's gonna cost us a lot of money. So always consider that before you invite them.